My name's Susan McGargy. I'm the past president of Coastal Association of Realtors, and we really appreciate you coming tonight. We're having 2 candidate forums, this one here tonight and then one next week for Worcester County, which was on the back of your flyer that you got when you walked in. This candidate forum is sponsored by the Coastal Association of Realtors and the Salisbury Independent newspaper. We really appreciate the participating candidates, the Salisbury Independent newspaper, Warwick Community College, thank you, Ray, the 2014 Coastal Association Candidate Forum Subcommittee, and we had lots of Coastal Association volunteers tonight helping you as you came in, and it was really cool to see the Girl Scout Troop 980 here helping pass out things. We indeed want to welcome you because it was a really rainy night and we appreciate you coming out. It's really important that we all participate in our right to choose our elected officials. And I want to recognize a few that joined us tonight. Pete Evans. Can you raise your hand, Pete? Larry Dodd. And Greg Belcher. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Greg Bassett, who is the editor-in-chief of the Salisbury Independent newspaper and tonight's moderator.
Thank you, Susan. This is great to see all the candidates are here. They're all here, so this is important, and this is your chance to ask questions here at the end. I'm going to ask some questions up front, and now I'm going to read the thing that they told me to read before we start. All the candidates are here for District 37 and 38, for the Wicomico County Executive, and for the at-large seats on the Wicomico County Council. Candidates in this race for Senate 38 and House of Delegates for 38C, Mary Beth Carosa and Judy Davis are both here. They will be participating in a forum next Wednesday, a week from right now, in Ocean Pines, at the Ocean Pines Library. That's on the 22nd at 6 p.m., an hour earlier than this one. That debate will be moderated by Zach Hops, who is the editor of OC Today, or a reporter at OC Today. Majority of the questions asked this evening have been prepared by the Coastal Association of Realtors and the Salisbury Independent. Questions will be accepted from the audience via index cards. The Girl Scouts should have given you cards. The audience questions will be screened by event coordinators to make sure that they are concise and don't overlap with questions that we've already asked. To ensure that all participants have equal opportunity to speak, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to questions. 2 minutes. The timekeeper will hold up a yellow card when the candidate has 30 seconds. There's the yellow card. When the person's out of time, when the candidate's out of time, they'll hold up the red card. It's really complicated, isn't it? Yeah. I make it seem a lot more complicated. Additionally, each candidate will answer one realtor question after the first round, and then 2 audience questions to close. Distribution or display of campaign materials is prohibited inside the auditorium. Candidates are permitted to distribute materials after the event, and we encourage them to do so outside the auditorium. The forum is being recorded by PAC 14, our good friends at PAC 14. Tom's back there, and he's promised that this is my best side, so we move which is good. So the candidates are asked to speak as clearly as possible, so you can be recorded, and it's going to be played at a later date. All right, we're going to start with introductions. Addie Eckert gets to go first, and this is a 2-minute introduction. I think we're going to go to... We're going to pass this around? Okay.
So we'll just take this and move it. Thank you very much and good evening. I am Addie Eckert and I'm here tonight to ask for your vote. I think I am the best qualified for the Maryland Senate District 37. I have 20 years of experience in full-time as a legislator, and I've had over 35 to 40 years experience in nursing. I still do some part-time nursing work, so I believe as a citizen legislator It is important to make sure that the policy that is set in Annapolis can fit and work in our local jurisdictions. I have the fire in the belly and the commitment, and I think that's very important. I have a history of working in Annapolis, across the aisle, and with various groups to get things done. So again, I look forward to your questions, and I'm here to ask you to vote for me on November 4th.
And now Chris Robinson.
Thank you, thank you very much. Chris Robinson. My wife and I, Carol, who is here tonight, we live in Trapp. My father was a labor leader. My mother was a school teacher. She taught kindergarten for 40 years. She's still alive and well and helping me in my campaign. I've practiced law in Cambridge. I've been doing that for 19 years. Before that, I worked for the Democratic congressman who represented Maryland's Eastern Shore in the United States Congress. And during that time, I started out as his legislative assistant. I got that job by working 8 months, $10 a day plus gas. And after he was successful, I went to Washington with him. And in 1984, I helped draft the legislation to begin the cleanup of the Chesapeake Bay, which is one of the great projects here on Maryland's Eastern Shore, something that's very important to me. I've learned as a small business owner and a lawyer in Cambridge that the most important thing that we can do on the Eastern Shore is make sure that we have a well-educated workforce. If we're going to attract industry and create jobs, we need to make sure that the kids that go to our schools, that they have opportunities to get a first-class education. And I don't make that comment by reading books. I make it because week after week, year after year, I make payroll in Cambridge. And I depend upon the quality of the kids who come to work for me. And the community colleges here on the shore deliver the best people that I've ever hired. I've had 3 people who have gone on to become lawyers, and I've learned a very important lesson about community colleges and how important they are to the Eastern Shore, and I'm going to be a huge advocate for education if I get to Annapolis. Community colleges, 93% of the kids and parents who go to the community colleges stay right here on the shore, and they apply their skills, their knowledge, and their training to the businesses that we depend upon. So I'll be a great advocate for education, the environment, and creating jobs. Thank you very much.
Going over to District 37 House, this is Chris Adams.
Good evening. My name is Chris Adams. I'm running for state delegate in District 37B. I'm a third-generation small businessman. I'm a fifth-generation Eastern Shoreman. I'm very proud of my home. I'm proud of my family business. What brought me to run for office was a fight against Maryland's Department of Labor licensing and regulation, where we successfully amended law. I'm now state president for the Maryland and Northern Virginia Floor Covering Association. I set about the process of running for state delegate because it's the people's chamber. It's where the people's voice is heard. People like you and me go to Annapolis to represent our Eastern Shore and our Eastern Shore way of life. I set about the process of meeting people door to door, direct voter contact, and met 5,700 people in that process. I learned very quickly that there's a lot of pain on the Eastern Shore. We need jobs. We need opportunity for our good folks living here. And I want to be that voice for the Eastern Shore. I have the endorsement of the National Federation of Independent Business, the Maryland Farm Bureau, and also the Maryland State Teachers Association. I was one of 4 Republicans to receive that endorsement. I'm proud to have that endorsement. My wife's a public school teacher. I have 3 children in public education. And finally, I also have the endorsement of the Maryland Association of Realtors. Thank you very much.
And now Keisha Haith. Haith. See, I was working on Keisha all day, and it's Haith. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Keisha Haith, and I am running for the Maryland House of Delegates representing District 37B. I am a native of the Eastern Shore. I live in Talbot County with my husband and our 3 children. Our oldest son is a 22-year-old U.S. Army. He is transferring from the U.S. Army into the Army Reserves. And then we have a 14-year-old 9th grader who's attending Easton High School and a 4th grader at Easton Elementary School. I have experience in the government. I have been in government for 12 years. I currently serve as the Economic Development Director for Dorchester County. In that position, I have secured more than $10 million for small businesses for economic development projects. In addition to that, we have been able to secure over $165 million worth of capital investment for business attraction and business expansion efforts just this year. And when I came into the position in 2008 as the Economic Development Director, the unemployment rate was clearly well over 11%. Now to date, it is about 8.2%. So I have experience in not only helping to lower the unemployment rate, but also in job creation and expansion of businesses. So I believe this race is about experience and knowledge, and being in this position as the Economic Development Director, I bring that knowledge. Not only am I known in Dorchester County, but also across the state of Maryland. I serve as the Vice President of the Maryland Economic Development Association, so I have ties throughout the state of Maryland and already have those relationships that are currently developed. In that, I am running on a platform of economic development, education, and the environment. I have been endorsed by the Maryland State Education Association as well, the Comptroller Peter Francho, and U.S. Senator Barbara Mikulski. So I look forward to your vote on November the 4th. Thank you.
37 is it's a two-person district, so there are 4 people running for 2 seats, and now we have Johnny Moutz.
And I'm number 3, not number 4. I was going to say I'm coming in, I'm batting cleanup, but I'm not batting cleanup. I'm coming in 3rd. Hi, everybody. I'm Johnny Moutz. I'm a candidate for District 37B for the House of Delegates. That's all of Talbot, the rural, I call the rural portions of Dorchester County, Wycomico County, and Preston and Federalsburg and Caroline County. I grew up in St. Michael's working in my family's restaurant. That's Carpenter Street Saloon. I have 17 years experience working in state and federal government. My primary reason for becoming a candidate running for office is I feel that my experience working in state and federal government at the top level of federal and state government has been a privilege. Our delegate, Jeannie Hadaway, ran for lieutenant governor, which vacated that seat. I want to use that experience and try to apply what I've learned to the legislative process in Annapolis to bring home as many benefits as I can to the Eastern Shore. I'm proud to be a Republican, but my campaign is not about party politics. It's about the Eastern Shore. Growing up in my family's restaurant, the small business, and other businesses that my friends are running that I grew up with on the Eastern Shore, they're all being choked. They're being choked by fees, taxes, and regulations. In order for small businesses to not only survive but to grow, we need to find some relief from fees, taxes, and regulations. Small businesses include farmers and watermen. They need to have a seat at the table. Thank you very much for your time. Most importantly, as your delegate, I'll always be there for you or your family if you feel that you need me. Thank you.
And now, Rodney Benjamin.
Thanks, Johnny. This is a lot of people for a rainy night. Thank you all for coming out. I know you've endured a little bit to get here. I'm Rod Benjamin. I'm born and raised Dorchester Countyan, been a shoreman all my life, 30-year career teaching, 12 years at middle school and 18 in the high school. Taught mathematics and computer science, loved it and enjoyed it. There's a few 8th graders that I'd like to change the way they behave, but that's the way it is with kids. After I retired from that, I built houses for 10 years, and I've been a waterman off-season from teaching for many, many years. I've got a pretty good handle on what Eastern Shore life is like, and I'd like to keep it the way I understand it. I think that our businesses are indeed choking. Our farmers and our watermen both need relief. We need to help our environment. The Bay is in trouble, and I'm willing to work for all of these and to help them all solve the problems and get along with one another. I have a lot of experience, and I've been the liaison to the State Department of Education, president of the local educators, all the offices that are associated with the local education association. I'm currently involved in the Historic Society. I shoot skeet. I'm a hunter. If you think of our local activities, I've probably been involved with them, including belonging to the Salisbury Gun Club. I love the way we have developed Eastern Shore. I think that we still continue to need to keep a handle on it and do our development on a case-by-case basis, and I just got the yellow flag. Thank you very much for coming out. I look forward to meeting and working with you all.
Going to District 38, Percy Purnell.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Percy Purnell, better known as PJ. I'm the youngest Percy you'll ever meet. The name is gone. I've been the mayor of the city of Chrisville for the last 8 years. Prior to that, I worked in Washington, D.C. for 25 years. I actually was on the shore and raised my kids here. Both my kids and I graduated Chrisville High School, and all three of us went to Salisbury State. I have one nurse, one accountant, and myself. I was the director of business development for Lockheed Martin and 3 or 4 other major corporations in the Washington, D.C. area. I work with the federal government every day. I work with their representatives. I work with their people that got things done. I work with their project managers. I understand how government works. As a mayor for 8 years, I've worked with just about every department head and every secretary in the state of Maryland. I understand how it works. I understand how to get things done. In my tenure as mayor of the city of Chrisville, I brought in close to $8 million in grants over the last 8 years. And I know a lot of us are against grants, but I want to tell you something. When you've been in Chrisville and you've been through a hurricane and you've been through all the problems that we've had and all the struggles and difficulties, the grants look pretty good. I appreciate you coming out tonight. I appreciate your support. You'll get the best that I've got. I've given it the best I could for the last 8 years for the city of Chrisville, and I'll continue to do that as a delegate. Thank you.
I do have bad news. The Orioles have lost 2-1. Charles Otto gets to go on that.
Thanks for the introduction, Greg. I want to start out by thanking Greg and Susan for the opportunity here, and certainly for the trustees and Dr. Hoy of making this facility available for us tonight. I am your delegate for District 38. 4 years ago I ran because I was upset. I was mad because I didn't think our state was heading in the right direction. I asked for your vote again because I'm still mad, and more mad after 4 years of dealing with what we've dealt with in this state in mismanagement, fiscal mismanagement. It's irresponsible that we've increased the budget by $1 billion every year in the last 4 years when each of us are losing all our money. Higher taxes, higher fees. Somebody needs to restrain themselves, and I ask for your vote to return to Annapolis and try to bring that forth. I thank Dr. Hoy for being here because he's got the best bang for the buck in the state of Maryland for the community colleges, and we appreciate your success. Thank you.
Norm. Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. Carl Anderton, District 38B.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carl Anderton, Jr. I am blessed this evening. I'm blessed to be the mayor of Del Mar, to have been born and raised on the Eastern Shore. My family roots go back to the 1620s, believe it or not. And I had a great opening speech prepared. I thought about it all day driving in the rain, but I need to do something. I need to correct a wrong. And it's just how I was raised. You do the right thing. You put everything aside for what's right. And I want to apologize to you, Mr. Conway, for a mailer that was sent out apparently on behalf of me. If that's on behalf of me, I wish they would stop sending those. You know, it was tasteless, shameful, and disgusting, and I apologize to you on behalf of whoever sent that. And I called the Republican Party in Annapolis. This is taped, I don't care. And I called up, and I spoke with the director, and I told him how I felt. He couldn't talk to me, tell me any details because it's illegal. So, but in doing so, I felt at the end of the conversation that I said my piece, and I realized that I will be taken off his Christmas card list. So, but it's a serious thing because I've run a clean campaign based on issues and facts that we're heading in the wrong direction, and it's time to do things different. We've seen what more of the same gets us time and time again, and it gets us further down in the hole. You know, we need to reverse course. And now's the time to do that. And so I'm ashamed by what happened. I'm embarrassed by it. My family's embarrassed by it. You know, in the age of social media, there was things said on Facebook about my family and I, and we were just as ignorant of the situation as everybody else. I had no idea what had happened with this. And there's one person who left a comment that I will visit them after the election and talk to them very nicely. You know, but other than that, it's a guy I went to school with. He's allowed to say whatever he wants. But it's been a great campaign so far, and I want to continue that. Here you go, sir.
Norm Conway.
Thank you for your comments. I'm Norm Conway. I was born and raised right here in Salisbury. A blessed place to be, a blessed place to live. Salisbury, Wicomico County, Maryland. So you get it across the board. Best city, best county, best state. I've been very, very proud in my lifetime to have had the opportunity to go to college. I worked and paid my way. I was an educator, something I always wanted to be, primarily because of the teachers I had. In this county, they were the very best. I hope my tenure there made some differences as well, because they certainly made them for me. I've participated in this community in a number of activities and organizations. I had been a member of the Salisbury Fire Department for 51 years this past January. I don't look that old, but facts are facts. And I want to say that you know, we can be very, very proud of that organization. The people that are there, the people who protect us, step into all kinds of harm's way, and that is a typical Wicomico County person. I want to say that I've represented this county for 28 years in the Maryland House. I've enjoyed it. I've had great opportunities. I serve currently as the chairman of the Appropriations Committee. I'm very, very proud of that, and I'm very proud of things that I've been able to do for the Eastern Shore, for Western Maryland, for rural Maryland, because we have to stand up. We've now got the big job to protect the poultry industry.
Moving over to County Executive Bob Culver.
Thank you for County Executive. I appreciate that start right off. Sorry, Rick.
There was a comma between County Executive, comma, Bob Culver.
Maybe in your book. Wasn't in mine, but anyhow. I am Bob Culver. I'm running for County Executive. I'm currently on Wicomico County Council. You know, Wicomico County has been a very special place to many of us. It has been for me. I was born and raised in Wicomico County, been schooled through Wicomico County, and I'm proud to be a part of Wicomico County Business Group. I believe that every child in Wicomico County should have a chance for higher education. I hope to bring to Wicomico County graduates that ability to be able to go to Warwick, Salisbury University, enjoy what you can learn through higher education. I think we need to work very strongly on what regulations are being passed down now on our agricultural industry. Wicomico County is the largest county production-wise for agricultural products in the state of Maryland. The phosphorus management plant is going to be devastating to Wicomico County, and we need to fight that. I think we need to work very closely with that. At the same time, we need to work very closely on making sure that we keep the Wicomico River clean. We don't want to mess the Chesapeake Bay up. We all love the Chesapeake Bay, what it brings to us as far as the fishing, as far as the recreational habits. But there's ways of doing it, and we can start on it. I don't believe in punishment first. I believe in education first. So we need to teach everybody. We've all done some things from older generations that we didn't know were wrong at the time, so we need to bring that back. I want very much to work on our business community. Our business community is hurting right now, and we need to work on getting jobs. We've lost jobs, and we watch government grow larger. Our income is going down, our net income, but at the same time, our taxes are going higher. So we need to do a complete reworking and try to get this system to work back to help Wicomico County residents. Thank you.
Rick Pollitt.
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Rick Pollitt, and it's been my honor to serve as your first county executive for the last 8 years. I'd like to point out that my wife is here, my son Ricky, who is a junior at Salisbury University. My daughter is home preparing college applications. She's a senior at James M. Bennett this year. And I also noticed a few minutes ago that my sister and my cousin are here. Like Carl, our family has been here for many years. We came to Allen in around the turn of the century into the 1700s. And since then, we've made Wicomico County our home. So my love of our county runs deep. It is all about family, and it's all about community. And it's the kind of thing that makes you want to get out and work to make your community better. what we've tried to do in our first 2 terms is to reach out and engage our community in dealing with the issues that confront us, whether it's jobs, whether it's quality of life, whether it's keeping our schools safe, keeping our roads good. It's the kind of thing where we need full community engagement. We've spent the last 8 years bringing people to the table unlike it's ever been done before. Right now, we're getting ready tomorrow to announce the product of a full year of vision action planning, where we've brought the largest decision makers of our community around the table to look at ways that we can promote economic development. How can we improve transportation and education? How we can secure our agriculture's future, the poultry farmers, and in balance with our environment. These are things that we're actually doing. And if I haven't seen the yellow card, there it goes. I'm going to tell you a real quick story about how that process has already proven results. At one of our committee meetings, a local automobile dealer complained about the lack of driver's education in the county, that she's had to turn people away for jobs because they couldn't afford to go get a driver's license. Dr. Ray Hoy here at Warwick Community College said, well, why can't Warwick provide a driver's education program? The lady from Pohanka, Ms. Fitzgerald Angelo, said, if you'll provide driver's education, we'll provide the cars. And then we can have people graduate from that school and get jobs. That's underway. We're making jobs. We're creating opportunity for people in the county. And that's what we're all about here. Thank you.
County Council at Large, and we'll start with John Cannon.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'd like to thank the Coastal Association of Realtors for sponsoring this. I'd also like to thank everybody for being here tonight, as well as those who are home at PAC 14 who are watching. I'd also like to thank the Coastal Association of Realtors for the recent endorsement. My name is John Cannon. I'm running for Wicomico County Council at Large. I was born and raised in Wicomico County. I graduated from Salisbury University. After that, I'm now in the property management business. In 2006, relating to the issues here today, I was served as president of the Wicomico County Council, so I'm not new to this right now. A couple of issues I'd like to share with you as far as I think our highest priorities in Wicomico County. First, you've heard before that job growth, I think, is a very high priority for Wicomico County and economic development. If we as elected officials do our job and we increase job growth, we see an increase in economic development, you're also going to see our economic tax base increase. You'll see more funding coming to Wicomico County. As a result of that, if we do our job, we don't have to come back to you, the public, and ask for tax increases, because I'm not in favor of that. Other challenges that I see coming are from the state of Maryland, which was touched on earlier. We're almost losing our autonomy in Wicomico County, as are many other counties in the state of Maryland. You're seeing in fiscally, they're sending down costs to the local level. Not only that, but then they're taking monies back from the local level. And I think in cooperation with many of the people in this room, we need to turn that around. You're also seeing the regulations that Bobby talked about, such as phosphorus management tools, watershed implementation plans, the tier maps. These are big issues, and they're restricting how Wicomico County gets to choose what it wants to do. I am conservative by nature. I'd like to be in there at the table to try to turn these issues around. I feel I have the hands-on business experience, the institutional knowledge. I feel like I have the working relationships, not only with government, education, and industry leaders in Wicomico County, but throughout the state of Maryland. And with your help on November 4th, I'd like to have that opportunity. Thank you very much.
Now Matt Holloway.
Again, I'd like to thank the Coastal Association of Realtors for having us out today, and Greg Bassett for monitoring this. I'm Matt Holloway. I'm the president of the Wicomico County Council. I've been there for 4 years. I've been the president for 2 years. I'm also on the Critical Areas Commission for the Chesapeake and Atlantic Coastal Bays. I've been there for 6 years. And I'm the newly appointed agricultural representative on the Sustainable Growth Commission. So I'm up there to make sure that agriculture has a voice at the state level. I've grown up in Wicomico County my whole life. I'm a 5th-generation farmer. I am also a businessman. I own Quantico Creek Sod Farms, a 1,200-acre sod farm out by Hebron. And I also own a hydroponic greenhouse called Baywater Greens, LLC. I'm also involved in my community through the Rotary Club of Salisbury. Mainly, I'm asking for your support to run and to win for another 4 years. Because when I started, I said I wouldn't run again if I didn't think I'd made a positive impact over the 4 years that I've been here. And I feel that we have. I feel that we are on the right path. I would like to be there to help steer us towards recovery. I'd also like to be there to, wherever we can, have government help to enable businesses to succeed and to stay here in Wicomico. I'd also like to be there as a champion for agriculture. This year I was announced as the agriculture ambassador by the local Chamber of Commerce, and I would really I feel that that's really the heart of where I come from, and I think I can do great things for Wicomico County. Thank you.
And last but definitely not least, Laura Mitchell.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Bassett, Salisbury Independent and Coastal Association of Realtors. And I appreciate everybody coming out. It is rather a ducky day, I guess. Only fit for ducks. But I am running for Wicomico County Council at large. I currently serve on the Salisbury City Council as the vice president. I was elected in 2011. And unlike most people, one of my favorite things to do is get a hold of the budget. I love going line by line through that budget and finding money. It's like a treasure chest for me, looking for, or a scavenger hunt, looking for bits of money here and there that you can put together to do projects you didn't think you could otherwise do without having to raise taxes, without having to find additional funds. Sometimes the money's already there. It's just a matter of priorities. I'm a big fan of priority-based budgeting. For me, when I read through a budget, I can tell an entity's priorities. It's kind of like reading somebody's diary and finding out what's important to them. You can read the budget that way. Accountants are in short supply in government. Not a lot of people step up with an accounting background as I have to run for office. You get a lot of small businessmen, you get a lot of attorneys and other things, but accountants kind of a rarity. So I do enjoy that difference, and I enjoy working on the budget doing that. I am very pro-education. I have a grandson in the 2nd grade, very involved in his school. I'm also really concerned about jobs and bringing jobs here, but for me, education is that first biggest only hurdle if you can't clear it to economic development. The first thing people look at are schools, and if you can't say, yes, we've got the greatest schools, we've got wonderful schools, and we want your children here, and they will leave here with an education that can help them get to work, then nothing else you do matters. You've got to jump that education hurdle, then you've got to jump the public safety hurdle. Then you can start to work on some of the other things that we hear a lot about. Thank you very much. I hope to have your vote on November 4th, or early voting on November 23rd. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to go to District 37 Senate. First question, and I think Addie gets to answer the first question, which means I get to read the first question. RetirementLiving.com recently ranked Maryland among the top 10 worst states for retirement. The primary complaint being that it's more expensive to live here than many other states. Including property and sales tax, Maryland is the 7th highest taxing state in the country, according to the Tax Foundation. Many residents you hear all the time move to Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia to escape taxes. What can the state do to minimize its expenses to enable less taxation on both business and residents?
Thank you very much. I think it's really important that we do create the balance and kind of reciprocity between our local jurisdictions and the state. The state decreased our highway revenue user funds, and they have not been replaced. I think it's important that we work to begin to restore some of that or look at ways to do that, because our counties are not going to be able to sustain without increasing taxes if we don't look at that from the state level. So I put in a bill last year with a number of my colleagues to look at that. That's one thing. The other issue, I think we have to look at our taxation policy across the board, whether we look at the tax credits and considering whether or not we can decrease the sales tax. That was been a proposal before. Or look at how we do the income tax. That's one of the ways. We do tax people twice on their retirement. I put in a bill this past year that would allow military personnel who were health personnel who were retiring to get a tax reduction to live and work in Maryland because we have a shortage of health professionals. So I think they are a number of ways that we can make it easier for folks to live and thrive here on the Eastern Shore. Another way is to look at the duplicative nature of our regulatory structure, because that's one of the things we hear, that our businesses are being strangled. If we look at our family farms, if we look at fisheries there, and if we look at just the waterway improvement, the tier, all of that needs to be looked at, and I think we can do some specific things to change it. Thank you.
Mr. Robinson.
Thank you very much. You know, the whole country suffered through difficult economic times after the banks collapsed in 2008. So our jurisdiction is no different from any other jurisdiction in suffering the hardships of the economic downturn, and we're still here on the Eastern Shore having a difficult time coming out of it. You know, when I practice law, sometimes I go around the state, and I was in Montgomery County a few months ago, and you wouldn't know that there was a recession in Montgomery County. But I think that because of the economic downturn, we had to do a lot of things in the state that we wouldn't normally do. And I think that one of the things that we did in the state of Maryland was we did increase spending, in my view, to a point where we can ratchet it back. And here in the state of Maryland, we have to balance the budget. It's a constitutional obligation. So I don't think we look to taxes to balance the budget. We look to cutting spending. And I'm a fiscal conservative. I believe that you live within your means. But I also believe that government can, as I think Mr. Holloway said, government can serve a good purpose. It can help cities and towns like Salisbury and Cambridge and Easton, help them get off the ground. Because one of the most important things in my campaign and what I dream of is helping our cities become great places to live and work. And I think that if we do that, and I think we can cut spending and we can cut taxes, and we have a deficit right now. We're going to be facing, what are we going to be doing, about $500 million. I think we need to look to cutting the spending, not raising the taxes. We've heard too many people tell us that Maryland is not a business-friendly state. I'm a small business person. If I'm in Annapolis, I'm going to make sure that small business has a person at the table who speaks their language and knows exactly what they deal with when they have to deal with fees and regulations and higher taxes. Thank you very much.
Okay, Chris, you get the second question here, so you can stay if you want.
Oh, okay.
According to the 2013 American Community Survey, roughly 10.2%, or about 590,000 people, did not have health insurance last year. During the Affordable Care Act's first enrollment period, Maryland enrolled roughly 72,000 people in qualified health plans, a rate that was one of the lowest in the whole country. What can be done at the state level to provide high-quality, low-cost health care to the uninsured while also keeping premiums and other costs affordable for those with insurance?
Well, that's the big question facing the country. I think that a lot of people have criticized what they call Obamacare because it hasn't really worked its way through the country. I think everybody, and I'm not saying Obamacare is a great plan, but I do believe that we all know that health care costs have risen dramatically over the last 10 to 20 years. And every economist is telling us that if we don't deal with health care costs, our country's going to dig itself into a deep ditch. So we need to figure out a way to make sure that health care is available. And I guess the first question is, do you believe that health care should be available to all Americans? And I do believe that every American should have access to affordable health care. And I think that it is putting money in the bank when we practice preventative care, so we don't have catastrophic problems and more expensive health care issues to deal with throughout society. Now, the rollout of the exchange was botched. I think we have to look at we need a little more experience to find out where that's actually going before we start. I mean, everybody's criticizing it, but I think that's what happens in life. We're going to criticize things. A lot of people are inclined to do that, but we need to give this process a chance to see if it produces positive results. And I don't think that those results are discernible in just 1 or 2 years. We need to deal with this over the long term. So, but healthcare is a mighty large issue, and it goes back to, in this country we have an employer-based healthcare insurance, and that goes back to World War II when you couldn't increase wages, so employers provided healthcare to employees. And now we're finding ourselves in a position where I think it's unfair to ask employers to carry the burden for everybody, but we do need to make sure everybody has health insurance.
Thank you very much. There are a number of issues relative to healthcare reform. First of all, we've had the Medicaid expansion, we've had the health exchange, and then we haven't even gotten to the health insurance reform that was to take place once we got the exchange up and running. But as you know, when Maryland decided to use a lot of the federal dollars to combine the eligibility system with the health exchange, that's where the glitch occurred. And so now they went back to start the new system, and we'll see how that is going to work. The good news is there was Medicaid expansion. More citizens were able to access health insurance than before through the transition from the primary adult care into the Medicaid expansion. So folks who had severe and persistent mental illness and substance abuse were able to get that kind of access. One of the things that I think going forward as we look at this, because we could have just done Medicaid expansion first and then gotten that stabilized and then moved to the next level, which we may have to go back and rethink and look at. But the other downside on that is the health insurance premiums are still going up. And right now we're seeing a lot of employers dropping insurance absolutely because it's tripled and quadrupled. And there are some things at the federal level that are going to have to change, and I think it's going to be our responsibility as states to be able to get those kinds of changes at the federal level and then figure out how we work around it. For instance, right now the rate for a young person is way down, and that's good news because we want our young adults to be covered. But what it's done to our senior citizens is put that rate way up. And then not only is the breadwinner looked at, but the whole household is looked at. So it jacks those rates way up, and that will have to be addressed this session. Thank you.
Okay, moving to 37B, and Chris Adams gets the first question. Western and Southern Wicomico residents have always felt a bit underrepresented in Annapolis. Because the district is so spread out, it is indeed difficult not to pay more attention to Cambridge and Easton. What will you do to make sure Western and Southern Wicomico residents and businesses have a voice in the State House?
Well, the good fortune is I'm from Hebron, so when I win this race, I will be your resident delegate for those areas of Wicomico County. Let me just tell you that I took this job opportunity very seriously, and basically quit work for about 4 months to run in my district. And so when I say I door knocked 5,700 doors, it took everything that I had to do that, and I did spend a lot of time in Talbot County, Dorchester, Caroline County. Wicomico is my home. Our family has our business here in Salisbury, and I care a great deal about it. I've already been to the Sharptown Town Hall and met the commissioners and the mayor there. So my goal moving forward is to reach each of these municipalities individually and also business community on a one-on-one basis. It's what I do. It's what I'm good at. My life has been in sales. To be good at sales, you have to learn your customer well. For the next 4 years, my customer is going to be the constituents throughout the district. Johnny Motz is from Talbot County, and I think in Wicomico you'll have a great voice in Annapolis who's worked well both with Republicans and Democrats. We did get law change, and the only way to get law change in Annapolis is to appeal to the Democrats, and you start winning debates. You start winning the argument. And in our case, we won an argument that had we not won it, it could have simply put us out of business. I was very upset with what happened. But this is the voice that you're going to get when I run, and I will represent Wicomico honorably. Thank you.
Keisha, a second.
Yes, as a native of the Eastern Shore, I would certainly represent Wicomico County as well. Currently, in my position as an economic development director, we have to work across the state with every economic development director, and I currently work closely with Dave Ryan, who is the economic development director for Wicomico Salisbury Economic Development. So that is something that I'm used to. I'm used to a bipartisan approach. I'm used to working across the state of Maryland with everyone. So just know, because, you know, the Eastern Shore, this is what it's all about, I will be a voice for Wicomico County and help the citizens as well as the small business community as well. Being a former small business owner, you know, I know what the challenges are. I know how to get things done, and I'll be a voice for you guys in Wicomico County and represent the district as needed.
We'll let Mr. Benjamin go third.
Thank you. I'm very sorry for the feeling of that area of Wicomico County that feels underrepresented. I think that you will be well represented, and either of these candidates all come from rural 37B. Myself, I grew up in what's called the Neck District. It's between Cambridge and the mouth of the Choptank River. I would not find it unlike what you might call the Neck District in Wicomico County, which runs from the river, the Wicomico River, over to the Nanticoke. That nice long body of land is very, very similar in flavor and attitude and economy to what I grew up in. There's nobody there that I would care to hurt, and nobody that I would care to hurt that I grew up with. I think we can represent them very well, and I think that I would be the prime candidate to do that. Thank you.
And Johnny Mounts.
Well, thank you, Greg. And since I've filed to be a candidate, I've been to Wicomico County countless times. Every chance that I get, I come to Wicomico County. I probably am the candidate furthest from Wicomico County, and I don't know who's keeping count, but I can tell you I've been here many, many times, and I'll continue to be here many times. You know, my idea of being a delegate, my view of being a delegate, isn't one where you go to Annapolis and you listen to people from Annapolis to tell you what's going on. The facts, the stories, what's happening is right here on in our neighborhoods and on our corners. And you do that by being here. You work with county councils, you work with local governments, and you work with municipal governments. And I guess as a pitch for the realtors, you could probably buy a home in Wicomico County, but I'm in no position to do that because I'm fully invested in the campaign. But every time I've been to Wicomico County, I've been greeted warmly. And I've learned a lot since I've been on the campaign trail meeting people, and I'm looking forward as a delegate to continue those relationships and continue to work with the county. Thank you.
We're going to reverse order, so you can go first here. We see all those scary headlines in newspapers and on TV about rising sea levels, and we really see how it's going to affect especially Dorchester County and even western Wicomico. Should the state be preparing for this in advance, or is it better to let nature take its course? Also, what can the state do to protect property owners from these increasing flood insurance rates?
Well, that's the two-part question. You know, sea level rise is cannot be ignored. It's a fact of the world that we live in, and the way that we conduct ourselves, and the way we manage the land, the way we manage our behaviors. You know, that's a personal discipline that we have to maintain. We have to be aware of what's going on around us. As far as preparing, you know, floodplain maps, doing studies, you know, using careful planning on where you're putting your investment. You know, at some point, if you're in an area that's likely to go underwater, at some point, you know, it's likely to go underwater. Then the state should be helping as much as it can, so landowners can make the appropriate choices. Then again, landowners should have the right to be able to use their land. As far as the flood insurance, that's dictated by the federal government, and everything we can do to keep the flood insurance rates down is absolutely critical. When you talk about flood insurance, most people think that's just getting insurance on your home. for if there's a flood coming in. But if you have a business loan, anytime you need a business loan for a small business, you need to get flood insurance. So at some point, we need to make sure that that program is funded. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Rod.
Thanks, Johnny. I live and look out on the Little Choptank River every day, and I watch the tides. And the truth is, I don't know what the truth is. Our tides, our extreme tides definitely are further than what they used to be. We get more highs, and our lows are sometimes lower than they used to be. Looks to me like the average hasn't changed all that much, and I'd really like to know the truth. The doomsayers would have you believe that the polar ice caps and the Antarctic ice caps are going to fill up the oceans. They're going to overflow us all, and we're all going to be driven to high ground in Colorado. I don't think that's the case. For one thing, if you think about it a moment, all of the polar ice cap in the Arctic Ocean is already floating. So it's already been compensated for by the oceans. The Antarctic ice cap is in better shape, so as it runs off, and it has dissolved some, we have a problem that we have to cope with. Higher tides are indeed occurring more frequently, and that concerns me. Is there an answer to it? I don't know. I don't think we can control the oceans or the weather. If we have to move away, I hope that's not the solution. Second thing, cost of the insurance, it's unfair. Those of us in the tidal areas only have to deal with the occasional extreme weather problems that come from tide. Flood insurance is really designed for those that get extreme washouts in the mountainous areas where certain rains can come down in places that wash them out, and we need to help them, but too much of the burden is borne by those of us in tidal areas where it's going to wash out into the ocean as it runs off, and it's not really a flood problem or a flood. It's a high tide. If it washes us away someday, I don't think we can change that. For the high tides, we need to lobby for more fair allocation of the fees for the flood insurance. Right now, we get it equally to those that really are at risk, and maybe we should bear some of that burden. That's a matter for public concern and public opinion. Thank you.
And Keisha.
We recognize that sea level rise is definitely an issue, particularly in Dorchester County, and certainly with Hurricane Isabel, a lot of houses and businesses were certainly underwater. Yes, I do believe we need to prepare for sea level rise, and we definitely need to have a plan and be proactive in regards to that instead of reactive. So now is the time to start dealing with that. We realized that in building the Harriet Tubman Museum, which is near Blackwater, that it was going to be a victim of sea level rise. So we had to, in fact, make some changes and build higher, at higher levels. So I think that's one thing that we can do as far as building residential, but handling the commercial side is another issue that we would have to definitely sit down and plan for. As far as the flood insurance is concerned, that's something that we would have to come together and work on and figure out the best way to solve that and ensure that the flood insurance rates are not astronomical for many so that they cannot afford it.
We'll close with Chris.
Here's the deal with flood insurance, as I understand it. You have an insurance company that subsidizes that coverage through the federal government. So when it comes time for the homeowner to collect on that insurance policy, when there's a catastrophe of that magnitude, that insurance company has to fight the federal government for the money. Secondly, if the insurance company is really hit hard, they'll go bankrupt. And so you're left with a homeowner that ends up having to sue the insurance company for the money. And this is a real issue when you have programs subsidized by the federal government. A responsible solution for the Eastern Shore, and we're sitting here in front of the Realtors Association, is that you perhaps build homes a little higher than you normally do. And I built a home 10 years ago. I built it on 5 courses a block, not 3. I did that for a reason. I knew what I was building on. The Eastern Shore should be pro-growth, pro-construction. I think it should be responsible. I reject the idea that the EPA or the Maryland state government wants to restrict private land use, the ability to build and develop on the Eastern Shore. I do not like the idea of the federal government coming around and trying to turn half of Dorchester County into a national park. These are private land issues. The flood insurance question touches on a bigger issue. I hope I've attached my position to that.
Okay, thank you. We're going over to 38A now. And I love this question because I do not know how I feel about it, so these candidates will help form my view. And Mr. Otto goes first. Somerset County is currently reviewing its wind energy ordinance in preparation for a proposed wind farm. There's a lot of opposition from residents who claim the turbines will reduce their property values, create noise pollution, and cause shadow flicker, among other problems. Where do you stand on the proposed wind farm and the wind energy in general?
Thank you, Greg. That is somebody's sharp with their questions. That's been a struggling issue, and we've faced it all for the last year. The mayor and I seem to have been on the same side in favor of wind turbines, but I committed to the developers initially when they first met with me that I wasn't going to be a flag bearer for them, but I wasn't going to stand in their way. And I think it's right in the appropriate place now before the Planning and Zoning Commission and the commissioners to make those decisions of the right protections for our citizens in Somerset County, not for some admiral and Pax River to make that decision. The Department of Defense has plenty of remedies if they're going to interfere with the radar at Pax River to make that whole. I see it as a property issue. Somerset County was, granted, St. Mary's County was founded before Somerset County, but we weren't far behind. And the Department of Defense, if they want to make it up, can make it up in some measure to mitigate the circumstances for the wind energy. Because the policy of Maryland has been to create some ridiculous formula by 2022 that we have to have 20% of our energy coming from renewable sources. So there's a demand there that's going to increase our energy costs by 6 to 10%. I'd rather see the wind turbines than I would solar panels that destroy our environment. You have to cut around them and all, and you can't grow a crop underneath them. So that's my answer.
PJ.
I've lived wind turbines for 5 years. 5 years ago, I was sitting at the city desk as a mayor of the city of Crisfield, and I was looking at a $250,000 a year electric bill to run our sewer plant. I studied that budget every month to find out some piece of that budget that I could cut. And finally, I came down to the electric bill, and I went to the State of Maryland Department of Environment, and I asked them, what's the chances of me getting a green grant to put up a wind turbine in Crisfield to generate enough electricity to pay our electric bill for our sewer plant? They came back about a year later and said, yes, we'll give you a grant. I got a $4 million grant to put this up, a 750 kW wind turbine. It'll eliminate electricity requirements for the sewer plant in the city of Crisfield. I've studied this thing 9 ways from Sunday. And as I made the statement when we broke ground on our turbine, the foundations are in now, the turbine will actually come next month. I made the statement, I said, if this works, whoever's in office when this goes online will be a hero. If this doesn't work, it'll be Purnell's folly. So, guys, you know, Charles and I agreed early on this that we backed wind turbines, and we felt like that it was something that would work. It won't work everywhere. The size of the turbine, the type of community you're in, the amount of noise it's going to generate, how much effect it's going to have, those are all key factors when you start to look at this. When you go up to Lewis, you got a 2 megawatt, bigger than anything we've got or we're planning. So it's a problem of properly sizing it, properly operating it. I located ours right next to a sewer plant. And if you've been reading the paper right now, our sewer plant puts out 60 decibels at 1,000 feet. So if law is what it says it is, if you double power, you only go up 3 dB. So it should work. It'll eliminate our electric bill. And, you know, I can't speak for the farmers of Somerset County or the rural residents of Somerset County about their wind turbine. That's something that will have to be decided at the county level. But personally, for the city of Crisfield, I've endorsed it.
Okay, you can stay because you get to answer first for the next one. Employment opportunities are a perpetual problem in Somerset County. It always leads the state or close to it in unemployment rate. What can you, as a state delegate, do to help promote businesses that might improve the hiring prospects for residents of Somerset County?
Same thing that I did as a mayor for the last 8 years. Unemployment is tough. We've got probably a rate of $10,000 a year as an average income in Somerset County. And I worked with the Somerset County Economic Development Director to get a grant to retool one of our companies, Sherwood-Williams, Rubber Set, hired 100 new people. And that's in the works right now, and they're still filling jobs. I've worked very hard to refurbish a plant outside of Crisfield. Difficult task after a plant's been down for 30 years. Nobody's been in it. We've refurbished that with grants. I've looked at other opportunities. I was a business development director for Lockheed Martin, also for GTE. You wonder sometimes, I've got a lot of companies listed on there that I work for. Well, one company kept buying another company, kept buying another company. I just happened to be the victim sitting at the desk. But economic development is a tough process. I think we've got professionals in Worcester County and Wicomico County, and also in Salisbury City and Cambridge. I really do. I think they're working hard at it. It is a tough, tough job. And somebody just stands up here and says, well, I'm going to do this and this, and we're going to have more jobs. Guys, that's a folly. There's probably 1,000 companies in this country looking for places to locate right now, and they've probably got 5,000 opportunities amongst them. You have got to be prepared. You've got to have the facility, you've got to have the tax structure, you've got to have the employees that are trained. Unless you go back and look at some of the models that some of the foreign car makers have done, where they've actually come into your community colleges and trained people to work in their plant. But all of these things are part of it. And when somebody goes to look at a location for a plant, they look, do you have an airport? Do you have a railroad? Do you have the right workforce? Do you have the right tax structure? Do you have the right energy supply, natural gas? Lots and lots of questions. So it's tough. Don't let anybody kid you that it's not.
And now Delegate Otto.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg. Well, there's a lot. Unemployment is a big issue, and first you need a state that has a climate for business friendliness. Going back to our last question about the wind turbines, we were meeting, the county commissioners and myself and the senator were meeting with the governor about wind turbines, and we brought up the fact we had Walmart owns a facility or property next to the ECI down in Westover, and they were planning to build a distribution facility there, and the state of Maryland had a bill that would require that isolated just Walmart would end up being the only ones that would have to provide health care to all the employees, and that went away some 10 years ago or so. It's sort of interesting with this. During that meeting with the governor, we asked him to look into, contact Walmart, do a little freelance work here to encourage them. Well, he chose and got in contact with the officials at Walmart the same day that the House of Delegates passed the increase in minimum wage. I don't think it was pretty good timing. And I think these things such as this 10-10 minimum wage and the tax structure that we have are causing the problems that we have for business in our area. We increased the tolls on the Bay Bridge. We pretty much tripled them and all. I told the folks then in our committee, we've increased the cost by $1 a mile from the Bay Bridge to Salisbury. And now, being in business here at Farmers and Planters, we have difficulty getting trucks to come in here. Besides our fuel tax, that is going to go up every July now with inflation, and is going to have a big hit come January the 1st. Those aren't business-friendly things that are going to get activities in our area.
Okay, going over to 38B, and Carl gets the first question. Carl, you're the challenger, and
yes,
you're going up against a pretty seasoned opponent. And this will be an individual question. Norman has to answer this question, too. As a newcomer,
yes, sir.
What do you want to do differently to serve the district?
Okay, well, I'll tell you how I serve the constituents I have in Delmar. Okay, everybody in Delmar has access to me through my cell phone. Okay, communication is key. The ability to call somebody who works for you, because that's what happens when you get when I get elected somewhere. I work for the people who voted me in, nobody else. So they have access to me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they use it, and I'm fine with that. That's the way it's supposed to work. I've been in office, elected official now for 9 years, council member and mayor for the past 3, and I haven't seen my delegate in my town hall. So how can you know when you're going to Annapolis what to focus on during the General Assembly session if you're not meeting with the people that work for you, that you work for? It seems that we do work for them, but it's wrong. It's totally backwards the way it works. So I've knocked on 5,000 doors. We will hit 6,000 doors, and I'm working 40 hours a week doing that. And every person that I'm meeting gets my cell phone number. And if you want it, you're welcome to have it. It's 443-359-1335. Call anytime. I'm there to answer. That is the key. To go to Annapolis, the way things are, we're such an underdog in representation. To go up there and have no idea how we should vote on things because we're not talking to our constituent base. To go up there and not know what to propose legislative-wise because we're not talking to our constituent base. Communication is something that we have lacked for far too long now, and that's not to impugn anyone or anything at all. It's just a different style of governing. That's all it is. You know, that's the difference. Is I will be there with you. You'll be there in Annapolis with me through social media, cell phone, the office doors open. You can come to my house, whatever. The key is communication. If we're on the same page, then I'm doing the right things in Annapolis. If we're not on the same page, then I'm doing the wrong thing in Annapolis.
And then now Norm. Norm, you get a different question.
Come on.
Peter Francho told me that there's no one in the world that knows more about the Maryland budget than you. Is that a good thing? That's not the question. Highway user revenues. They were diverted in 2009 during the economic troubles. Local governments felt the pinch when they were feeling the pinch. Now, question 1 on the November ballot proposes a constitutional amendment to protect transportation funding from being diverted to other needs. How do you feel about this?
I agree primarily with Transportation Trust Fund. There are two things there. Transportation Trust Fund was one item, highway user was another. Highway user basically was grants to the county, some type of formula to some degree. Highway Transportation Fund comes from the gasoline taxes and other types of taxes dealing with fuel. The monies, we had a very, very tough period, a downturn. There were monies used from the Transportation Trust Fund. All of those funds to the Transportation Trust Fund were repaid, all of them. Highway user, we were looking for ways to meet the needs at a downturn in the economy, a very tough one. Trying to maintain basically programs and services. Those had to be cut in a number of instances as well. But we did go to MACO, Maryland Association of Counties, and we did ask, gave a couple of items, 3 things I think. Would you like to see, which of these would you like to see reduced if we have to do this? And highway user money was the item. But no one knew the prolonged downturn that we were going to have, and no one knew that you were going to ultimately end up with a 90% reduction in highway user. For the last 2 years, we have made some effort to move back, not to the degree that we have, or that we had, but we are, I think, going to be able to move back to highway users, to the counties and municipalities. Number one, very important that the state road network ties in with the counties and with the municipal governments. And I think we recognize that. 10 million back to the counties this year, 16 million back to the municipalities. And it was called pothole.
Okay, Norm, you get the next question, too.
Oh, okay.
Here in Salisbury, we're lucky to be home to 2 institutions of higher learning. And you could not argue that they are just really, really important to our local economy. But across the nation, tuition costs continue to rise, and more students are drowning in student loan debt that prevents them from making investments such as home ownership. What can the state do to ensure tuition remains affordable for Maryland students while also ensuring students are able to pay back their loans after graduation?
I think there are a number of things that have been looked at. Primarily, we have been able, even during this tremendous downturn, we have been able to maintain a 3% tuition. Many other states did double digit. We did not. The reductions that we took in other areas, we utilized to maintain a 3% level. I think one of the things, and you go to, I know in my own family, we have youngsters that have a significant debt graduating. That's true for a lot of families. But I think one of the things that we have to do is get back to a 4-year degree term. You know, many are now 6 years.
Well, Norman, it took me 9 years to graduate.
Really? I would never have guessed.
Yeah.
My.
In fact, I'm borrowing money from Dr. Hoy to pay it all back still.
But I think it is something that families really ought to talk about. And everybody needs to understand what that cost is going to be, how hard it is, what kind of changes they're going to make with the family, because it will definitely have an impact. We have been very, very fortunate to maintain that 3%. And I think that is a goal. And we have some other changes in the system, too, that we're looking at overall. But the next one would be, the next item would be that 4-year degree attainment.
And Mayor Anderton.
Thank you. Okay, so we have students coming to 2 wonderful facilities to get educated, and they're leaving with no job prospect here in Wycomico County and a mountain of debt. Okay, the first key, let's get creative and think outside the box and bring some job opportunities here to Wycomico County. That way you're making a living so you can pay your bills and maybe enjoy the quality of life that you hope to achieve here. Instead, people are coming here, getting their degree, taking their student loan debt with them, and they're going across the bridge to get jobs. You know, so Warwick has had funding cut, and the last numbers I saw will be 2023 before it'll be restored. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it'll be 10 years before you have your funding restored. That is ridiculous, sir. That's the problem we face here. Salisbury University in the past 10 years, a 36% increase in tuition cost is another thing I read. Now, I don't know if that happened in 2006 or if it happened in 2007, but it was in the past 10 years. The things that go on in Annapolis have to change. We're not keeping up. We're falling farther and farther behind. The ability to sit up in Annapolis and just roll out costs down the road to us is catching up, and you see the end result. You know, we're taking money from universities that belong to you, and we're putting it, who knows where we're putting it. You know, we're forcing costs down on students who are trying to struggle to make ends meet because we don't have the job market here after they graduate so they can get the value out of that degree that they spent $50,000 to get in the first place. So I've lived it. My wife has 2 degrees from SU. I dug graves, built roofs on chicken houses, pretty much anything you can think of, retail management, maintenance, building maintenance. It's, you know, the things you have to do to survive in this economy is unprecedented. It's only getting worse. I worry about my children. My oldest boy is in Bible college. My youngest boy is a freshman in high school. How's it going to be for them at this current rate? We have to be fundamentally different. You know, the things that we've done over the past decade and the decade before that, and the decade before that are catching up to us, and it's not working. And I see the red card there, so I will stop at that point. But we have to do better.
Thank you. We're going to County Executive, and Bob Culver goes first. In your opinion, what is the most pressing issue currently facing Wycomico County, and what specific proposal would you make to address this issue?
Currently, most pressing issue is going to be the loss of jobs. We have lost jobs for the last year and a half. We need to stop the loss and then start trying to rebuild that. We have lost people not only in the manufacturing industry. We're not going to get some of those back. We're not going to get the Crown Cork and Seals. We're not going to get the Dresser Waynes back for some time. Manufacturing has changed. But we need to go ahead and quit losing the brain drain, as Carl and a couple of others said, that we're losing them. Our students are going elsewhere to get jobs. We need to be able to create those jobs here in Wycomico County. So our biggest thing is to stop the bleeding of the jobs, shore up our business industry, and be able to go from there and create new jobs and bring in new industry.
Same question for Rick.
Sure. Creating jobs is a major part of what we need to do. The bigger picture is that we have to rebuild our community. Wycomico County was hit hard by the recession, and it's not over yet. You don't hear us talking about recovery yet, because we know that people are still struggling to make their home mortgage payments, to find jobs, to be able to pay their bills and give their kids a decent quality of life. And so we have to come together as a community to start looking at who we are, what are our assets, how can we go forward making the best use of our assets. And the things that we've been promoting is a new way of thinking. We have to broaden we have to take down the barriers, not just about the way we think about things, but the things how we look at the governments. We have 9 governments in Wycomico County, a county government and 8 municipalities. We have a region that is known for its high quality of life. We need to leverage the assets that we all bring together as a community. Let's work with Wallops Island in Virginia to take advantage of the tremendous, exciting things going on there, where they tell me we may have manned space flights to the space station within the next 10 years. Let's work to redevelop the Port of Salisbury so that we can have greater riverborne commerce coming in support of the wind turbine projects off of Ocean City. Let's work to revitalize the Salisbury-Wycomico Economic Development Commission so that we are going out into the world, marketing our community as a good place to come and live and raise a family. We can do these things because we are the land of pleasant living. We are the hub of Delmarva. We've got the talent, we've got the will, we've got the strong sense of community that makes us want to do well for our families and our children. We have to have an overall strategy of how we're going to rebuild our community under what I've been calling the new normal. The recession has changed things. We're not going to be the way we were back in the 90s and the early 2000s. So it's going to take all of us getting engaged. We like to talk about responsibilities or the rights of citizenship. There are obligations of citizenship too, and that means we all come to the table to work to make our community strong.
And we'll stick with you, Rick. As you well know, this year's budget included a tax increase under the revenue cap. Do you foresee the need for additional tax increases in the future? And if you do not see a need for additional taxes, what specific recommendations do you intend to put forward to reduce county costs or add efficiencies?
Well, I think whenever you talk about taxes, especially when you have politicians talk about taxes, you really have to listen carefully to what we're talking about, because there's really 2 angles there. If the conversation is about raising taxes to bring in more money, to do more spending, that's one conversation. And there are times when that is the appropriate one. I think of when I was the city manager in Fruitland, and the city council wanted to take its police department from an 8-hour-a-day operation to 24/7. It required a nickel increase in the property tax rate in Fruitland to do that. We held public hearings. The community was fully in support of that. They came out in droves to say we want a full-service police department. That's not the conversation we had with our budget. As property values fall, we've needed to increase the tax rate just to be able to break even. It was the lack of doing that years ago that got us into trouble in the first place, which led to the revenue cap, to the change in government bringing in a county executive, and other changes in how we fund the services people expect of us. And so yes, we increased the tax rate in this budget by about a nickel, but 4 cents of that 5 cents was only to break even with the same amount of revenue coming in next year as we had this year. The other penny was allowed by the revenue cap. It amounted to about $700,000. Now, when 80% of your budget is spent on public education and public safety, there's really nowhere to go to make that kind of cut without digging deeply into the core services of our community. And my budget was passed by 5 members of the county council. And to show you that it wasn't political, 4 of the 6 Republicans on the county council voted for that tax rate increase. Not a tax increase, but a rate increase, because they knew it was the only responsible thing to do in order to fund the services people expect of us.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to County Council at Large. Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. I'm sorry, Bob. I'm sorry, Bob. See, Rick was giving me the signal just to go to the next thing, so sorry. Sorry.
And I was not one of those that voted for the budget. So, I did not vote for the tax increase. Yes, I understand taxes, I understand what they provide, I understand the services. But I think the first thing we need to do is to go back to a zero-based budget. That will mean looking at the budget from the ground up, just as you've done in your households every year. When things get tight, you cut back to where you need to start over again. You need to look at everything. Everybody talks about the amount of fat that's in the government. We can trim the fat, but we've got to trim it one step at a time, and that means each department will have to have their budget brought to the county executive and the council to sit down, go over it, and say, okay, I know I need this many pens, I need this much paper, I have this many employees. So you can trim a lot of fat in a government, but you've got to start from the ground up. Part of the question being whether or not I would increase a tax increase. Right now, the time is not for a tax increase. We have suffered as a community. We have suffered as an individual. Our money is coming less to us. We're being charged more and more taxes at a time when we cannot afford it. I don't believe in increasing the size of government, but I understand the needs of the services. Fire, safety, the education department, very strong on all those. But at the same time, we can make cuts. I don't want to strip the government down. I don't want to strip education. I don't want to strip safety. But I want to make it run as lean as possible. And that's how we've got to do it. You've got to do it from a business aspect and not just a bureaucratic aspect. So I do believe in trimming the fat. I do believe in cutting the budget back down and trying to help the people as we need them at this time.
Thank you, Bob, and I'm sorry. I only have one job up here, and I blew it, so.
Well, luckily, I was here to cover for you.
We're going to John Cannon first, who's running for a large seat on the Wycomico County Council, correct?
Is this the highest priority in Wycomico County? Or,
no, you have a whole new one, a whole different one. Salisbury has long been considered a progressive city statewide, but it seems to have lost some of its luster in recent years. Now there's a sense, at least I believe, that good things are beginning to happen again here in Salisbury, including increasing numbers of new businesses. Do you see this economic growth expanding outside the metro core into the county, and how can you encourage such expansion?
Yeah, I think it's. I think when Jacob Day got on the city council, it was refreshing. I think everybody saw his exuberance. Things began to change. And a lot of what counties have to do is to depend on municipalities to create that stimulus in order for the economy to thrive. I'm glad to see what he's doing. Now, Wycomico County still has its obligations. We have to make sure that the infrastructure is in place. We have to make sure that wherever we can create any type of business incentives, wherever we can try to grow jobs, as we've been talking about all night, that's what we have to do. We have to make sure we have the best schools in Wycomico County. Excuse me, in the state of Maryland if we can. We have to make sure that our infrastructure is there, whether it's broadband, whether it's rail, whether it's the river, whether it's our roads. Those are the responsibilities of the county. We also have to make sure that under any circumstances whatsoever, we create the environment for growth in business through whatever incentives might be necessary. That's the function of the county. And I think we have done a great job in the past year. I'm looking forward to try to see what incentives we can create in the future. I'm not so, I wouldn't think that I could do this myself, even as an elected official. But I do recognize the fact that was mentioned earlier that we do have to bring all of the players to the table in order for Wycomico County to prosper. We have so much at our resources. We have 2 universities here. We have the hospital here. The largest growing sectors are going to be health and tech. And here we have one of the best hospitals in the country here. We have 2 great universities with Salisbury University, UMES. We have Ray Hoy, who's doing an excellent job with Warwick Community College. We have Department of Business and Economic Development. We have the Tri-County Council. There are all these players at the table. We have to be accountable for this and bring them together. I would suggest on quarterly meetings that we have some ad hoc committee that does sit with the council. You take metrics and you decide exactly how your progress is moving forward and where you're succeeding as a county and where you may not be succeeding. But I think, yes, Wycomico County can take advantage of what is being developed in the city of Salisbury and move forward.
And we'll do Matt next.
First, let me start by saying I'm very fortunate to have been on the council in the past 4 years, and I want to highlight 3 things that we've done over the past couple years, especially, that have made it a more business-friendly environment here. We decoupled the personal property tax from the real property tax. That was a big benefit to businesses. We also phased out the inventory tax, and that's still occurring. It was a 5-year phase-out. That helps manufacturers that are here. Also, we did an automatic manufacturer's tax exemption. It was never turned down before, but if you were shopping, say on the internet, which county you wanted to locate in, you had to apply for the manufacturer's tax exemption. So we made that automatic. So that was a great sales point for our county. And I think that's something that we need to focus on is our PR. We historically have not done a good job of promoting ourselves and being out there. We have a one-man economic development team right now, Dave Ryan at Sweat, and he does a great job of retaining businesses and trying to attract new ones, but we need to get out there. We need to aggressively be promoting Salisbury, Wycomico as the place that businesses want to come. And I think we need to not hire somebody for a position. We need to contract that out to try to see if a PR firm can help us to attract these businesses. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Laura.
Hi. Do I think that what's happening in Salisbury can happen countywide? Absolutely. I certainly hope so. That is why I'm running. I saw the excitement and the energy coming out of Salisbury, going into Salisbury, into the downtown, and the changes that are happening just since I've been on council, really in the last year and a half. It has been amazing. It's been a wonderful transformation, and it's exciting to see that happen. I think that we need that same kind of energy and that same promotion of ourselves and talking about what we're doing right, talking about how wonderful it is to live here. This is the greatest place on earth, in my mind. We need to tell everybody else that instead of talking about everything that's wrong. And we've seen that pay off. We've done things that were very business friendly, like decoupling the personal property tax, like creating an EDU bank that allows people, we took them from a property that no longer needed them and put them in a bank that said, if you're going to open a business in our downtown or in our enterprise zone, you can come and tap into this bank. And that is, an EDU is a fee that people have to pay up front for their capacity for using our water and sewer. And they're cost prohibitive for a lot of things. It's what kept Evo out of town for a while. And then we got them back because we found ways to work with them. We let them use the well for their brewing operation that was there from the ice plant. And we allowed them to spread out their payments for their capacity fees, those initial fees over 3 years. Those kinds of things. And that only happens by bringing people to the table and hearing what they need, what's keeping them from coming here, what is going to work for you, and what's going to work for us, and finding a way to make that happen. Those are the things that I think are really important in making that happen everywhere. I saw that there were 4 seats come open on this county council and saw an opportunity to help build that bridge between the city and county and be a part of that even further. Thank you.
We'll stay with you, Laura.
Oh, okay.
After the election, the county council will resume its work on the comprehensive plan. It will also be considering tier mapping, which is a requirement stipulated by the Sustainable Growth and Agriculture Preservation Act. What is your stance on these tier maps?
Well, the tier maps are a little bit convoluted, to say the least. There are 4 tiers. My understanding is, and I'm no expert in this, I think probably my greatest strength is knowing what I don't know and when to go get help. So my understanding with the tier maps, there are 4 tiers. There's high density, medium density, farmland, and everything else. That everything else category seems to be pretty soft in definition. So trying to find out where you fit could be an issue. You can tell if you're high density, you can tell if you're low density, but what happens to those others in between? Right now, state says that we can't do any new development larger than 7 houses, I believe it is, until we adopt these maps. Those hearings started a year ago today, as a matter of fact, October 15th and 16th of last year. And that was bringing everybody to the table. Again, getting everybody involved and saying, okay, what about this works, what doesn't work, how will it impact Wicomico County, and where do we go from here? We're waiting on some additional information from SU. We're really talking to a lot of people to try to figure that out. I don't have the answer as to whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. I'm sure there's a little bit of everything in there. And that's kind of been my philosophy, and working in the public for many, many years and on council, is that you get everybody at the table and you hash through each piece by piece. If everybody leaves a little unhappy, then we did our job. If someone's really happy or someone's really unhappy, we didn't quite hit the mark. So I think that we probably need to have more talks, and we probably have a lot more hashing out to do. We're going to have to find some way to make it work, because it's come from above us, and it's beyond our scope of choice.
We'll go to Matt Holloway.
Great, thank you. The tier maps have been a very long, arduous process so far. I am looking forward next year to working on them again and jumping right into it with the new council, fresh set of eyes on there. From the get-go, my goal has been to not impact the property values of the property owners in Wicomico County, and that's something that I've stood for even before I was a representative on the council here. I think one thing we have to be mindful of is that the state has the trump card that they can lay down that says that if we don't do what they say, or if we don't do something that they agree with, they can mandate that all development has to go through Maryland Department of Planning to be approved. And that's something we want to avoid. I like local control. I like having us have the say of where our development's going to be. And so whatever we do, we need to make sure that we work with the state, but that we retain those property values for our property owners in the county.
And we'll let John close.
Thank you. Yeah, tier maps, boy, that's a good one. Tier maps is pretty much a basic breakdown of what the state dictated to Wicomico County that we would have to do. Tier 1 was the city, the municipalities. Tier 2 is the immediate area right around the municipalities. Tier 3 is a sort of a forgiving area where development could be done. Tier 4 is pretty much the rest of it, which is the agricultural district, as they classified and said you cannot do anything in the agricultural district for the most part. You know, I remember the days when we used to argue about 1 lot per 3 acres or 1 lot per 15 acres, and that was a big deal. But at least we were arguing about our own decisions and our own autonomy. With this 7 lots per parcel, if you have 1 acre or if you have 100 acres, it doesn't matter. You can only build 7. Now, if you have 100 acres and you have 7 lots and that's all you can build on it, it's almost impossible to even be able to afford the roads that you have to build in order to sell these. I think many of the people in this room have to understand that with this organization. It's a tough decision. Hopefully with the new administration in Maryland, no matter what party is elected, hopefully there will be some relief, we're hoping, on the pressures they're putting on the local level with these tier maps. If we have to live with it, I'd like to develop something in Wicomico County that might help enhance our transfer of development rights. That's when farmers are actually paid for downzoning their properties. If the state's going to come in here and say you can't do it, well, these people have their life savings, and we have to look out for these people. And they've had it for all their lives. So if we can develop some type of transfer of development rights within the county, that would be great. I would love to see what we could do with the septic systems. That's such a big issue now, and there are a lot of failing septic systems. If Wicomico County wanted to consider a wastewater treatment authority and a centralized septic unit at the landfill, per se. I've discussed this with Lee Beach. I don't want to go too far and say it's going to happen, because it's a lot of work. But if we could do that, we could possibly salvage those septic systems. People wouldn't have to put mounds in their front yards. They could transport their sewage to the county. In turn, with the cost, we could possibly afford a TDR program and make this whole tier map issue make sense.
Thank you, John.
Where do I go?
We're going to switch. Joel Mayer is going to come up and ask the questions submitted by the Realtors. It's 8:40. We are right on time. So thank you all for being on time.
Good evening, candidates. The question for the Realtors: what do you believe are the primary real estate issues confronting the Eastern Shore and/or state, and how do you plan to address them? The Coastal Association of Realtors represents over 1,000 realtors and affiliate members who live and work in the community. What role do you see the Coastal Association of Realtors playing in helping you? You want to start? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, and I think that's a very good question. I think we're at a real critical juncture with our communities because we have not rebounded on the Eastern Shore. I think a couple of our counties are showing some progress. Progress, in my mind, is building, is starting again. But many of us have developments that have stalled and been stalled, and with the kind of mortgage situation and the defaults and the foreclosures and the tax sales, we still haven't cleared out yet. So I think the realtors can play a real role with that, and it's one of the things that I've asked the Midshore realtors to do, is to bring together housing and community development, to bring together our bankers who hold a lot of those mortgages, and the realtors to be able to talk about what we need to be doing. I think an inventory, and I've already asked for this through housing and community development, we need an inventory of, and banks many times know this, of where we do have the tax sales and the mortgage issues, the foreclosures. But we also have a lot of people wanting homes for the first time. And so we have a list, and we need that list compared with what the inventory is in the areas, either county by county or region by region, and then look at what are the issues that come out of a discussion with all the parties involved, so we know what we need to be doing, develop a strategy, what we need to be doing locally, what we can do at the state level, and then where we need outside assistance to move forward with that. But that's, I think that's the biggest, one of the biggest issues facing us as we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. When I was 18 years old, I joined a buddy of mine who had we just gotten out of high school, and I sold a Triumph Spitfire to fund a trip to Europe and spent 5 months traveling around Europe. And I hitchhiked to a town called Florence. I fell in love with cities when I discovered Florence. I have had a love affair with cities ever since. Whenever my wife and I travel up the Atlantic coast, we always go to a town, drive around it, and then we take a walk and see how the people organize themselves. And I think that one of the most important things that we can do here on the shore, and it's happening all across the country right now, you know, when you really need to travel because it stretches your mind and lets you know what's happening out there. We need to make our towns exciting, vibrant, attractive places to live and work. And we need to build quality homes where people, where we can, that have a sense of purpose and a sense of history, that people will always look to the Eastern Shore and say, that is a great place to be. I think that what we need to do is put points on the board. In places like where I work in Cambridge, where I've worked for 19 years, and I've spent a lot of time in Salisbury. Salisbury has, as everybody has said, Salisbury's got it all. It's got the university, it's got the hospital, it's got talented, ambitious, caring people. The economy in this country has got to get better. But what we need to do while the economy is getting better, we need to put points on the board. And here in Salisbury, I understand that there have been like 14 new restaurants opening. In Cambridge, I think we've had 4 new restaurants in the last 3 years. I think we're moving in the right direction, but we need someone in Annapolis where government can help. We need someone in Annapolis who can help us put points on the board. And not just put 2 points on the board and go back home, but fight every round and keep coming back, and we need to stick with it. And that is the one thing that I think distinguishes me from so many people I've worked with in all my life. I never give up. And I want to make our cities great places to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay, so this was, you know, the IRS has data on this. The number one county in the United States receiving our outgoing Marylanders is Sussex County, Delaware. Number two, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and the number three county is a county in Florida. And if that shouldn't tell you something about what's happening in our community in Wicomico right now, these are your customers. These are your people that want to buy homes. They want to live in Wicomico County. They're choosing to live 20 minutes away from where you want to sell. My brother lives in Delmar. His property taxes are about $900. My home's roughly the same value. My property taxes push $3,000. Peter Francho, our comptroller, has said to match our debt obligations, we have to raise our property taxes 64%. Now, as a realtor, what does that say to you about your customer? They're in a tough spot right now. Now, I'm about jobs. One thing you'll know about me, I'm a small businessman with 20-some employees. I want to keep these employees. It is not easy to keep employees to that scale right now for a small business. And as a realtor, what I want to hear from the state of Maryland is we're going to be business friendly. We want manufacturing. We want retail. We want jobs. We want jobs. And on the Eastern Shore, we want jobs. And that's not happening right now. My response to the realtors is we can make a difference in Annapolis. We can be responsive to what it takes to improve our economy on the Eastern Shore. We need to compete as a business against Delaware, against Virginia, against North Carolina and Pennsylvania. Let's get to work, and I believe I can be a voice in that regard, and that's what, if I was a realtor, I'd want to hear from my state delegate.
Thanks, Chris. Keisha?
I know that the more businesses we bring into the community, certainly the real estate community benefits from that, because with that comes workers. Right now, in my position, we partner closely with the real estate community, and whenever we have a prospect, we use our real estate community highly to help us find properties for those prospects. In addition to that, we have brought in a number of businesses and must continue to do that within the state of Maryland. In addition to that comes the employees. We brought in employees to Dorchester County as well that are buying houses. I think the real estate community certainly must take advantage of the programs that exist in the state to get more people into housing. DHCD has wonderful programs to help low and moderate income homeowners get into housing, as well as the USDA has a great direct lending program as well as guaranteed programs. So coupled with partnership and coming together to meet regularly with the real estate community, I think that's very important, and I tend to do that already in my position, what I do now, and I think we need to do that as elected officials as well. The more we communicate with each other, come together, and work out solutions to problems, I think the better off we would be. So you hear a lot of people talking about jobs, 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 as someone had said that was a candidate, I think it was Percy. It's not easy to create jobs. So, you know, as an economic development professional, having elected officials, you know, dictate how to create jobs is very enlightening to me, to say the least. So I think, you know, when you have elected officials trying to dictate how to create jobs, that creates problems, and we really need to lean to the professionals, which are the economic development professionals throughout the state of Maryland, in counties on the Eastern Shore, to do what they're hired to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Keisha. Johnny?
Well, there's a number of factors that affect the real estate market. Clearly, taxes have an enormous impact, and people leaving the state because it's less expensive to live in other states than it is in Maryland is a patent example of an important factor in real estate. Another is land use. Land use comes up all the time. You know, whether you're going to buy property or you're going to sell, or you're going to move into a new property, is you know, what can you do with that land once you move there? And the land use rules vary from county to county. But truth be told, there's a large concern over how you can use your land. There's, you know, people are reluctant to want to invest in land because they're afraid they're going to lose their ability to be able to use the land in which they choose, and that's a significant factor, and that plays into you know, reforming the way we implement many of our regulations. I feel strongly that, you know, by fixing or adding some balance to our regulatory process, that will help the real estate market. It also helps small businesses. The small businesses are the backbone of the Eastern Shore's economy. The Western Shore has a federal government. that's a steady stream of income coming into the Western Shore economy. Over here, we're small businesses. And so I'd highlight those two factors.
Thanks, Johnny. Mr. Otto?
Thank you. I didn't know it'd be that quick. But it is 37. 38 does come after 37. I can count, and that's why I'm an obstructionist in Annapolis, I believe. I can add and subtract. The issues that are raised with this question, what can we do about property and real estate? No, I serve on Environmental Matters Committee. We deal with all the real property issues in the state. The Sustainable Growth and, heaven forbid, Agricultural Preservation Act, that was before our committee in the last 4 years. Certainly I was on the opposing side of it. And I remember my first State of the Union address when I was a delegate, listening to the governor establish a war on rural Maryland against septic tanks. That destroys the property value of all of us, and particularly farms. We don't have the access to the publicly funded sewage treatment plants that continue to pollute, even if we spend $80 million on them and don't function like the British company said they would. I'll continue to defend those property rights. Matter of fact, the septic tank regulations went into effect where we have to add the additional $10,000 fee to have bioreduction technology in our homes, on our septic systems. I was the only delegate that wasn't on the AELR committee that testified against that bill. I was also up there that day to testify against ridiculous rules that were being put in place by the Department of Agriculture on setbacks and dates, time, calendar dates of when we can fertilize our fields and our crops. So I'll defend this organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Purnell.
Question is, what do you believe are the primary real estate issues confronting Eastern Shore and our state, and how do you plan to address them? Charles mentioned sustainability. Sustainability is a root of all the problems that we've got on the Eastern Shore. Department of Environment, natural resources, critical areas, all of these things play into whether you can build a house or not. The other thing that plays a big part of whether you can build a house or not is dual taxation. You know, every person who's a resident of a city in this Eastern Shore pays double taxes. I pay taxes to the county and I pay taxes to the city. You take that away and you'll see a big change in growth of cities. You'll see a big you'll see a big solution as far as the sustainability process goes. Sustainability basically goes back to no cornfields or no soybean fields are going to be turned into residences or businesses. No forest land is going to be turned into residences or businesses. And folks, if you go down the list of things that have been done in the state, in the critical area modem, we're all conservationists. God, we live here. I was born and raised in Chrisville. How much more Eastern Shore can you get in that? I don't want to see the water polluted. I don't want to see the farms go away. But you have got this environmental lock on this Eastern Shore so tight that it's going to get to a point in another 5 years, 10 years, if we don't do something with it, you're not going to be able to build anything. Critical areas, non-tidal wetlands. You know, I had an $800,000 project stopped dead in its tracks because the Department of Environment sent an inspector out, and he went through the woods and he found grasses of certain kinds that can't use any of this land because this is non-tidal wetlands. The problem the realtors are facing is sustainability. You've got to get a lobby in Annapolis that's strong enough that can back off the conservation issue. We're all conservationists, but it's so far to the right now. It took me 14 months to get a permit to put a dock in Chrisville because it was 6 feet further in the water than it was previously. And I was a municipality. Think about what it's like if you're trying to build a house. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Benjamin.
Thank you for printing this in big, bold print.
No problem. You're welcome.
Reading glasses. Primary real estate issues. Well, our land use is obviously a big part of our real estate issue. And I like the local control of the tier issue. And I think we need to keep local control of the definition of our land use, and the longer we can keep that and keep the state of Maryland from interfering with it, the better. And I'm all for the local definitions. Keep up the good work. Our local issues also need to have customers for the real estate, and we need to be able to use the real estate. Our tier system is a lot better than the old smart growth system. I think that we're moving in the right direction, and that local definition will help improve that. One of the things we can do is get more jobs, and more jobs will give us more customers, and more customers will make all of this satisfactory and more successful. As we move toward that, I think we need to develop a program that I'm going to call Startup Maryland. Maybe it should be Startup Eastern Shore, where we sponsor local tax and state tax abatement so that we can get more and more industry. It's an idea that has been begun in Wacomico County, and I think you guys have made a good start. I hope we will develop it so it's a statewide program, and that if nothing else, we can get an Eastern Shore consortium which will develop this idea and help us to get more and more business and industry, give our local guys a chance to get their small businesses underway, and help get more industry in here so we have jobs for everybody. Thank you.
Mayor Anderton.
Coastal Association of Realtors. Let's try something unique, okay? Let's communicate. Let's sit down and meet before session and after session. Before session, see where we're going. After session, see how far we've come. Communication. That's the role you guys will play with me in Annapolis. You'll be there with me. Okay. Yes, we know the job market is bad, okay? And we know land use and all those things have all been discussed. Double taxation. I'm going to go back to that because that affects me as a mayor. Wacomico County is one of 2 counties in the entire state who does not allow for any tax set-off. No discussion. Nothing is mandated through the state. Everywhere else, there is a tax set-off. It's either a grant from the county back to the municipality, or it is an actual tax differential. What a tax differential is if you're in the county, you're paying for police, you're paying for public works, paying for your administration, you don't use that stuff from the county. So you shouldn't be taxed on that stuff. And it's a sticky situation for a lot of folks, but there's a way to do it. So that way everybody, somebody said it earlier, everybody leaves with a little bit of happiness in their heart. There's a way to do it so it doesn't affect the county in a bad way and the folks in municipalities where they want growth to go. It can happen because then it's a little bit more attractive. So, you know, we have those things. I'm going to leave you 2 quick positive stories. We heard a lot of negative tonight, so let's do something positive. Okay, I had a developer in Delmar. Okay, bought a big development that was empty. Had 2 homes in it, and it just sat dormant for years. Okay, so he came to me. Wanted to develop. He wanted to put an amphitheater in there. Okay, but the project was platted out at 300 building lots. He said, if you can help me get rid of these 200 building lots, make it one big lot, one big parcel, I can sell homes. We took it to the council. We did that. We got government out of the way, eased his tax burden. He sold 24 homes in there already. So there are ways to do it.
Thank you. Delegate Conway.
I appreciate the opportunities Coastal Board of Realtors takes. You do come to Annapolis when there are issues that are before the General Assembly at the time. You talk with members of the delegation, and I think that's very, very important. I think I would agree that probably there needs to be a review or look with discussion about tax differential. I've been a long time getting to that. I got into it basically when I was on City Council in Salisbury. And that's been a while ago. And I do understand that certainly an effort on the part of the city and the county to look at what each of them fund and try to work out something. And I know education becomes the big thing for the county, which the towns do not have to pay for, although they do pay for them, primarily because of the combined tax that's there. Significant. I heard Sussex County talked about. My wife's family's from Sussex County. Sussex County has been able to maintain a very reasonable tax rate for a long time because of the growth of the beach area. Significant to help Sussex County with their needs. They had not done reassessments either, as I understand it, for a period going back to the early 70s. So when we talked about that, but at some point, they're going to have to face reality too, and I think they see that increasingly. Homes, residences, I think some of the things that are happening right now will certainly help the real estate market in Salisbury, taking advantage of the upper levels of buildings downtown. Getting people to move in downtown is going to be a real plus, I think. I went through town the other night. Oh, excuse me.
Thank you.
I went through town the other night. A lot of cars down there, and for several months now, that's been the case. So I think that can help with the spiral and growth of residences, and we need that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Culver.
Thank you. We've talked about several things here tonight. First thing was jobs. Let me give you an example. SWED, we've talked about SWED. Dave Ryan will tell you that the one thing that will bring economy back out of the tubes is single-family residential developing. So how do you do that? Well, for 4 years, I have asked that the county council drop the impact fee. Every year, I bring it up. This year, it finally got put in the budget through work with the county administrator, and we have dropped that. To date, I believe there's been 54 permits requested in the last 2.5 months. That's more than we've built in the last 3 years. When you build a house, you put at least 5 crews back to work. Those 5 crews will have at least 5 to 7 men per crew. Right there, that one house will get you 25 jobs. So we have already started, so that's a good thing. The tier map. The tier map has got some points that really need to be clarified. Wicomico County is about 180,000 acres. 13% of the county is already taken up through municipalities, land set aside, that type of thing, rural legacy. Do you know that there's only 16% of the county that's even developable based on the current regulations through the health department, what you have to have for perks and that type of thing? We only have 3% of our land that can even be developed still left to go. I do not believe bringing tier maps down is the way to do it. I do believe in protecting farmland, and if somebody wants to do it, they pay for it. They pay for that right to protect that man's farmland, and it will not be developed. As realtors, what can you do? You're 1,000 strong. You vote for the right people. You put the right people in office that need to be there to make the changes in the government that you need to have. It's up to you. You're 1,000 people. Make it work, and all your clients. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pollitt.
I also want to thank you for the question, and also thank you for your hospitality and having us come in tonight to speak with the Coastal Board. You know, I've got a lot of friends who make their living selling real estate, and it's not about just moving property. You know, you talk about what do we need to do to sell more houses, to sell more property. Well, I know what goes on inside the typical realtor's mind. It's not about just selling a house. It's about matching someone to their ideal home. And so there's a lot of your heart and your soul and your efforts that goes into putting people in the right properties. And you want to be able to succeed and come out with everybody feeling happy. Well, what is it that brings people into a community? It's the quality of life. They want, in order for any of us, whether it's realtors or people in government or any other service, in order for any of us to succeed, people need to want to be here. And what's going to bring people here beyond the quality of our life? People want good schools. They want to know that their children are going to be well educated and be able to compete with kids from all around the world for the best jobs when they graduate. They want to feel safe. They want to know that they can go to sleep at night and have a relatively decent chance of waking up healthy in the morning. They want good roads. They want parks. They want all of the things that makes the community whole. Well, that means that the government needs to be there to provide those services. Now, I'm not one of these folks who thinks that government is the answer to everything, but government is the tool we use to provide those services, and we as citizens pay our taxes in order to pay for those services. I've never started a budget hearing without asking the community 2 questions. What is it you want from our community? And what are you willing to pay for it? And that's a very sobering discussion. We get an awful lot of people saying what they would like to have. We don't spend a whole lot of time talking about what we're willing to pay for it. I will say this, I'm tempted to repeat a line from one of the debates of the 1980s and look at my opponent and say, Bob, there you go again. We talked about the grant to do away with the impact fee. There is an educational impact fee that's applied to new family construction. There's only 2 ways that impact fee mitigation was going to happen. I had to put it in my budget. The county council had to approve the budget. Otherwise, there is no grant. There is no home construction. I did my part. I put the money in the budget. 5 of the 7 council members approved the budget. Today we have houses going up. That's because those of us who made the tough decisions were there.
Thank you. Mr. Cannon.
Thank you very much. I'm glad we brought this issue up of the impact fees, because this has been an issue. Bobby, I have to top you on this one. It wasn't 4 years ago, it was probably about 6 years ago, where I worked very hard to try to get impact fees moved to more, I guess, the certificate of occupancy, as opposed to when you're going to put the shovel in the ground. I've always said a builder, you should treat a builder like you do a car dealer. How are you going to buy a car if there's no cars on the lot? It's much easier for a builder to sell a house if the house is sitting there, rather than to ask someone to envision what it will look like on that vacant lot. But in doing this, I thought it would also create a stimulus to the economy. I tried it 6 years ago. I had letters of recommendation from CAR and from the Eastern Shore Builders Association. But for the life of me, I could not get the council at that time on board. And we weren't even trying to eliminate it. We were just trying to move it to the certificate of occupancy. Coming forward, I was on with the Chamber of Commerce, Salisbury Area Chamber of Commerce. I took on the position as Vice President of Advocacy, which was liaison between the Chamber and the local government. They asked me what I thought our priorities were, and I said my first priority is the impact fee. I want to take care of something to do with that. And we formed a letter, we sent it to the executive's office, to the council, and said, can you guys do us a favor and make this happen? I was shocked, because not only did they move it from what I was looking for, to just delay it, they turned it into a form of a grant, which was absolutely fantastic, and I applaud them for doing that. You know, we're 3,000 jobs behind where we were in 2007. We need to make up for that difference, and that's just one small way to get started with it. Other issues, I'd say, again, we do need to carefully look at the septic systems, and we need to pay careful attention to property taxes. The SAGE report from 2012 says Wicomico County cannot go any further as far as their taxation is concerned. We're 4th in property taxes, we're 8th in income taxes in the state of Maryland. So I want to keep the property taxes low. I think that's what your organization needs, and I want to address the septic systems in any way we can. Those are 3 high priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway.
So I'm really proud to be a part of the council when we passed the impact fee grant program. It's rare, I found, that you can actually feel and see a tangible difference that a politician gets to make on something, and to see these new homes going up around the county, 54 of them that have been applied for now out of 74 total. I think it's just a great thing that we can point to and say that we've accomplished this. One thing that the Coastal Association of Realtors could do to help us is we need your help with our septic issues in the county. We have areas in the county where, because of the new standards from the state, the septic systems are failing the tests. That's when the homes are bought or sold, the state mandates a test, the systems are failing. A lot of these lots were developed back in the 50s on small areas where they can't fit the mound systems. We need to lobby the state to allow for alternative type septic systems to be allowed in these instances. We're not reinventing the wheel here. These systems are used all over the country, all over the world, zero emissions. So if this is truly about saving the bay, saving the environment, a zero emission septic system sounds like the solution to me. And that's something that we need people to help support so that we can get this through the state and answer these questions that and concerns that these homeowners have. These homeowners on these small lots, these houses, a lot of them are rentals. They will walk away from them, and we will lose that revenue off of our tax base if we don't address it soon. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mrs. Mitchell.
Thank you. Again, thanks for everybody for coming out. We heard a lot about outside of the municipalities, out in the county, and that is really important. We have a lot of work to do there, and we all know that. But coming from the city perspective, I want to look at the inside, the infill. We're talking about sustainable growth and a lot of other programs that want to promote infill, but then you have policies like the double taxation that are prohibitive for doing that. It makes people think twice. Then you have, where we're a priority funding area, we have a population that exceeds the number to allow USDA to give grant assistance for down payments. You go out in the county, you can get $5,000 towards your down payment. In the city, you can't get that. So looking at those kinds of inequities and leveling the playing field so that we can promote those, because we have a lot of foreclosures in our municipalities, and that hurts everybody. It's a drain on our resources for our police, for our fire, for everybody. And for public works, they have to go and cut the grass. They've got to board up windows, all of those things. And that is a real drain on our tax base, as well as everybody around them, because every time one of those houses sits, it deteriorates further and further. And you just need one in a neighborhood to start dragging everyone's property values down. And then the assessments go down. And now everybody's, sooner or later, everybody's underwater. The next place can't sell their home, so they can't get out, and then it's boarded up. So what we've done in Salisbury, a couple of things. Foreclosure task force, we're looking at those issues and what we can do. We have bankers, we have realtors, we have everybody that's remotely related. We have a representative on that committee, again, bringing everybody to the table. We also have a registration where when the bank goes to the court and files the papers to evict a person in a foreclosure, they have to register. They have 10 days to register with the city to tell us who is responsible, who the resident agent is responsible for keeping up that property, so that it doesn't affect everyone else's taxes. So I think we really need to look at those kinds of things too. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, back to you.
I hold in my hand the audience submitted question. We're going to limit this to 1 minute. We're going to try to do this fast. And it's a really interesting question because I'm confused what the answer is. And Addie goes first. You were probably that way in school too, right? You always went first.
No, I was in the middle of the pack.
Will you work for the people, or will you work for the ever-growing government?
Oh, that's a good one. I think it's really important that we get government out of our pocketbooks. I mean, you heard that tonight with the excessive taxation and regulation and the over-intrusiveness I perceive of natural resources and the environment. We have a number of issues locally we're dealing with. We're dealing with the whole phosphorus measurement or management, or how it travels, how it doesn't travel, and how that impacts our poultry industry. We're dealing with fisheries. So it's important to me that I represent the people and get local decisions made, back to business on the ground, and make it work.
Thank you. Chris.
Thank you. I think the most underrated skill in anything you do in life is listening. My father taught me many years ago that, Chris, you need to listen. The American people are smart people. I think we also need to make sure that the laws that we enact and the regulations that are promulgated have a democratic pedigree. Because if they have a democratic pedigree, then they're going to satisfy the community. And that's exactly when you ask, will I work for the people? That's precisely what I would do. Listen to the concerns of the people and make sure that the laws and the regulations have a democratic pedigree and reflect the sentiments of the people.
Thank you.
A very easy question to answer. I mean, I'm going to be of the people, by the people, for the people. I'm a constitutional conservative. Government should not get in the way of the progress of our people. I believe that government is not the solution. We need to lower taxes, lower fees, lessen regulation. We need to let the free market decide how to proceed. This is a simple question. That's a very succinct answer.
Thank you. Keisha.
I think you're probably going to get the same answer from everybody up here. I would like to be elected to work for the people. I currently work for the people now and working in government, and would continue to do that if elected. You know, we are here to serve the people. It's about working together. It's about coming together. It's about being successful together.
Behind you there. Yeah.
You could not have asked me an easier question. Increasingly throughout this district, I have some black and white signs, dark blue and white signs with a nice green oval, and you will see the commitment right on the sign, reduce government. I'm for working with the people, and I've committed it all the way along, and that is my promise. People, and let's get some taxes cut too. Rain tax, really? No rain taxes. Let's work with people.
PJ.
I once told the director of the Department of Environment that if I was elected to governor, I would fire everybody in the Department of Environment and start over again. We make the laws. We, folks here, the folks that have been in the legislature, those that are aspiring to be in the legislature, we make the laws. The folks that we call bureaucrats, great state workers, these folks, you know, they do the best job they possibly can. But we make the laws. We give them laws to go out there and enforce. So the answer is simple. If I'm elected, the laws will change.
Mr. Otto.
Thank you, Greg. Thomas Jefferson said the government that governs best governs least. And I think Benjamin Franklin said, coming out of the Constitutional Convention, when asked what kind of government do we have, he said, a republic, young man, if we can keep it. And that's what we're trying to do now. We're in a war to keep our republic. And I guarantee you I'll represent the people.
Johnny.
Yeah, our campaign has always been about the people. My philosophy is even more so than about representing the people. It's about making our government implement policies that empower the people, not the government. The solution to our problems isn't a government program. It's the people. We need to empower our small businesses so they can generate our economy, not a government program. And our small businesses can do that, and they've done that, and hopefully our plan is to make them do that in the future.
Go over to Carl.
Yes, but this mic lets me walk around, so. Yes, of course, I'm going to work with my neighbors. I've already done it. I'm doing it now in Delmar. And, you know, that's the most important thing, is to get government out of the way so we can grow ourselves. We can make it happen working together, and that's the only way it's going to happen. We have a long history of seeing that it doesn't happen if you don't work together. So, yes, without question, you guys will be sick and tired of me because you'll hear from me way too much, but that's what I believe. Information is everything, and we will be a team in Annapolis.
Mr. Conway.
I do and have and will work for the people. I have done that the entire time I've been in Annapolis. I will tell you that those of you who want to be there, get used to having people stop you everywhere and tell you there ought to be a law. Tell them to write it down for you and get back to you. But it is in our history, laws come from people. And I am asked all the time. I think everybody has my cell number. The whole state. But I will tell you, I really feel strongly that people are listened to. I remind secretaries about what they need to influence their employees about, that those employees do work for the people of Maryland.
Bob.
Thank you. For the past 4 years, I have represented the people. Even when it came to tasks that I was challenged publicly by government, I still represented the people. So I will continue to do that as executive and will represent the people to the best of my knowledge and the best of my ability, everyone in Wycomico County. Thank you.
Mr. Pollitt.
I think I can safely say that every man and woman on this stage is here to work with the people, not for the people, but with the people. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. I know I got my start in government when my children were born, and it changed my whole outlook. And any of you who are parents know what that means to have a child and to feel the awesome responsibility of bringing up that child so that they can be a success. That's why I applied for membership on the County Board of Education, and I was serving my 9th year on the board when I was elected to this position. My whole theme, my campaign theme, which has since become the theme of my administration, has been building bridges, building community, because I believe the government is the people. I believe that all of us collectively are the government. Now, we can take the easy way out and turn our back on the government and point fingers and say this is corrupt or that's broken and just wash our hands of it, or we can get engaged, we can come to the table, and we as a community will be the government, and we will make the decisions that are going to make our children, or give our children, the opportunities that we want them to have. So yes, I think all of us are here as public servants above all.
We'll go to Bob Cannon. Did I say Bob Cannon? John Cannon. Is Bob here?
It's
Is
John.
Bobby here?
No, Bob's down in Fruitland handling something for me there.
I called your father, Sir Bob Cannon, for so many years. It's burned in my brain.
I get it frequently.
Yeah.
Thanks. Just don't use up my 1 minute.
I'm sorry, no. Charge me for Mr. John Cannon's time.
Thank you very much. If I can get you out of here 45 seconds earlier, will you remember me on November 4th? I'm a conservative by nature. That means less government, and less government, I think, is really the voice of the people. That's really all I'd have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Holloway. And he's not Joe Holloway, he's Matt Holloway.
That's right. Echoing what Mr. Bob Culver said, for the past 4 years I've represented the people. I plan to for the next 4 years. And I think we're in a great place at our level in the Wycomico County Council that we're the first point of contact typically when a resident has a concern. And so we get to hear those concerns. We're directly responsible to the constituent, maybe more so on a level than anyone else. So we are certainly here for the people.
And Laura.
Hi, yeah, the last 3.5 years, probably my whole life. Maybe it's a mom thing. Feels like my whole life anyway. Inclusive rulemaking, I guess, inclusive government. That's my policy, that's my practice, and that's my preference. Having everybody working together. I see that we don't have to be us against them. It's not the government against the people. The government is the people, as has been said. And I try my best to make the government work with you and for you. And that's what's most important. It is here to help you and to make your life better. And if we're not doing that, we're not doing it right.
We'll stay with Laura. We're going to do closes now. Everyone gets 1 minute to sum up, close, and we'll do it in the reverse order. So go ahead, Laura. Thank you.
Again, thanks for coming out, and I really appreciate it. I would appreciate your vote in the election, early voting, hopefully. And November 4th is a really important day. And I would ask that not only do you vote, but you bring others out to vote. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your frenemies. Make sure they go and vote. It's really important. I ask for your vote as a person with 3.5 years with the city council. Other than that, really not much experience in an elected position, but a lot of experience in working with the budget. I've put together the budget, I've been ruled by the budget, I've now passed budgets, and it is where the rubber meets the road. It's the money that matters. It's what we have, our finite resource that we have to work with, and we have to make sure we get the most out of it. Thank you.
And staying with County Council at Large, we'll have Matt Holloway.
As I said before, I made the commitment that I wouldn't be here running for this position again if I didn't feel like I had been effective over the past 4 years. And I feel like I have. We have big plans and projects coming up over the next 4 years that will really help to propel Wycomico County as an economic hub of the region. And with your support, I hope to be there for the next 4 years to make sure that we do that. Thank you.
John Cannon.
Yes, I would love your support. I had to make a choice before all this started, whether I would run in District 3 or whether I'd run at large. And I chose at large because I wanted to represent all of Wycomico County. I wanted to be able to go to Sharptown. I wanted to be able to go to Pittsville, Parsonsburg, Fruitland, and Delmar. That's my lifeblood, and I enjoy that. Laura was talking about budgets. Laura, I've read a multitude of budgets, not only county, but I've read Salisbury's budget. I've read Fruitland's. I haven't gotten to Delmar's yet, but I trust you, Carl. But it is my lifeblood. You can't just operate on the third floor of the government office building. You have to be out in the community, and that's how I thrive. I love the community meetings. I love going to the council meetings within the community. I love going to the fire association meetings. That's how I live, and I want that opportunity. All I want to do really is to have the opportunity to create opportunity for everybody here and all of your families. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We'll go down to Rick, County Executive.
Thank you. I think this election provides a very stark contrast in approaches. As I say, I think everyone up here wants to serve their community well. I think there's a deep difference in the way my opponent and I approach our responsibilities to build community. It's about collaboration. It's about building relationships, because we can't win by simply voting no, by saying no, by attacking this and that and attacking that. When the Maryland Rural Counties Coalition, a group of counties from across the state with rural Maryland in mind, wanted to fight the phosphorus management tool, they asked me to be their legislative chair, and we went to Annapolis and we fought for the legislation that delayed that while an economic impact study could be handled. When the Clean Chesapeake Coalition, which is designed by rural counties and bay counties to find a way to have responsible environmental dialogue so that when regulations do come down that affect our way of life, they asked me to go with them to speak to Senator Brian Frosch, who is going to probably be our next Attorney General. They know that I have the relationships, not just in Wycomico County, but across the state, to have a seat at the table, to be heard, to be respected, and I appreciate their respect. I would also ask for yours and your vote. Thank you very much.
Bob Culver.
Rick's right. We're totally different, black and white, day and night. I think Maryland state government is broke, and I think Wycomico County government is broke. We need to fix it. I think we need to start from local and then work our way up through the state. We've got some great delegates candidates, some great senator candidates here, and I know they'll do their part. I want to do that part for Wycomico County. Again, I think what we need to do basically is to work with getting our county back in system so that it's no longer broke again. Thanks.
Go to Norm.
Thank you. I've had the opportunity to reach a goal that I set a long time ago to represent Wycomico County in the Maryland House. Really didn't think it was possible, but I did it. I stayed with it, and I tell kids all the time, you need to set goals. I set goals for myself as well. One of the goals I've set has been in Annapolis, working with all of the delegations in the roles that I've had as a committee vice chairman and as a committee chairman. That's very, very important. You need to build bridges. You need to know them. You need to work with them, because they do represent every region of this state, and they all have differences in opinions. If you can convince them, good. I ask for your vote on November 4th and beginning October 23rd.
Carl.
Thank you, sir. You know, if I had your cell phone number, I might not be sitting here tonight. Just saying. So, no, seriously, to the folks in Delmar, you have my heart. You have given me this opportunity to serve you, and I'm so grateful for it. It's been a pleasure on the campaign trail meeting so many folks in Salisbury, Delmar, Fruitland, and I see what's going on in those communities. We're living the same life. And in Annapolis, we can go up and we can do some good things. I guarantee it. I feel very confident about what we can accomplish together in Annapolis. And so, again, I ask you for your vote, your support. Call me anytime. Visit me on Facebook. Come to my house. However you want to communicate. I want to know what's on your mind, and I'll tell you what's on mine, and we will work together. It's all about teamwork. The team, the team, the team. Thank you.
We'll go to Mr. Benjamin, District 37.
Thanks. I was kind of hoping to be last. I'd say, so now I can take my time, huh? Here comes the teacher. You all have homework. I hope you've heard something tonight you like. Go tell a friend, 2, 5, so that we know the election elected the people you chose. I can see and I believe you have wonderful candidates. All of them are going to work for you. They're all for the people. I've got it on my sign. Reduce taxes, reduce government. Thank you.
PJ.
I was planning for you to talk longer. I started as a mayor 8 years ago in Crisfield with 40 employees. I ended up, when I decided not to run this time because I was going to run for the House of Delegates. I didn't think it was fair to run for mayor, get elected, and then leave the town. 32 employees. Through attrition, through management, through cutting budgets. I even served as a city manager for 3 years for nothing. No money, just did it. Smaller government is obviously the answer. Smaller, more efficient government is really the answer. All of us standing here tonight are making you lots of promises. There's probably only 12 of us, maybe 13. What's the exact number serving in Annapolis from Eastern Shore? Against a lot of people. So it's going to take some real talent. And I think I have the talent. I think I have the experience. I'm looking for your vote. Thank you.
Mr. Otto.
Thank you, Greg. Well, I am Charles Otto. I'm born and raised in Somerset County on a farm, still live in the same address. Post office changed the address twice or 3 times, but I would never move. Got educated at Virginia Tech, animal science degree. Spent 2 years at UMES before I transferred down there because I didn't want that mountain of debt that we're leaving these new college students with. I was taught to pay for it when I bought it. And that's the principles I carry to Annapolis. If you think going from $34 billion 4 years ago to $39 billion is the right direction in this state, then I think you need to question the leadership that we have and who's part of that leadership and send the right people there. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll do Johnny.
Hey, everybody. I'm Johnny Mounts from St. Michael's, a candidate for District 37B. Throughout my life, growing up in the restaurant, working in government, getting a law degree, being admitted to the bar, I've done nothing but put my skin on the table. I put my best foot forward, and I've always finished the job 120%. And I can tell you right now, if there's anybody that you want to have at your beck and call to help or assist with anything you need, I will be your guy. Throughout my career, that's been my standard. My word is my bond. To me, the biggest factor facing the shore is the economy, and I'm going to do everything I can to reduce taxes, fees, and regulations. I'm asking for your trust and your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Keisha Haith.
As I stated when I started to provide the introduction earlier today, this race is about experience and knowledge and what can be done and results. And in my professional career, I have a proven track record of results in Dorchester County. And that proven track record, those same policies, can be implemented in Annapolis. So I ask that you vote for the candidate that's experienced, knowledgeable, can work across aisles. My platform is not a Republican platform, nor is it a Democrat platform. It is a human American platform, and I ask for your vote.
Chris Adams, District 37.
I'm completely humbled by the opportunity to be on the ballot on November 4th. There are a lot of people in the room here who know me, probably didn't see this coming. It's an exciting place to be. I'm honored and will do this job with integrity and do a great job for the Eastern Shore. I'm a small businessman. I'm an Eastern Shoreman. I love my home. I want to see our home taken care of. I want to see Annapolis leave us to our shore way of life. I'm asking for your vote on November 4th. Thank you very much.
Chris Robinson, District 37 Senate.
Thank you. My parents taught me that pursuing politics and public service is one of the great callings in life. And we have 2 awesome examples of great public servants here tonight who have inspired me, Chairman Conway and Rick Pollitt. They are honest, hardworking, dedicated public servants. I want to be just like them. I'm running for the state Senate seat because I believe that one person can make a difference. One of my dreams is to make our towns and our cities beautiful places to live and work. It is a focus that I will stick with throughout my tenure in the Senate, if I'm elected. I want to see children get a first-class education because, as I told you earlier, as a small business owner, I know firsthand what it means to have a skilled workforce to draw from. That's going to draw people to our Eastern Shore who will work and who will contribute to the economy and help us grow into a beautiful place and protect our rural communities. And I would love to have your vote so I could be a part of that. Thank you kindly.
Delegate Eckert went first, and she gets to go last.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I am Addie Eckert, and I have had the pleasure of serving the people of this district for the past 20 years in Annapolis. And I have to tell you, I'm a psych nurse through and through. It's important to me to develop the relations, to create the kind of environment that we can all work together, to communicate, to listen to each other, and then to solve problems, because to me that's what it's all about. I do not put in a lot of bills. I do not always pass a lot of bills, and you have to know that about me straight up, because if we can make something happen outside of the legislative process, that's even better. Because just remember, every single piece of legislation that gets passed results in regulations. And if we want to decrease regulations, and if we want to keep our taxes reasonable so that we can sustain a good quality of life, you gotta slow down on the pieces of legislation that get submitted in Annapolis. We've got to be focused with it, and we have to be deliberative. Vote for me on November 4th and beginning on October 23rd. Thank you, Greg and Susan.
Thank you. I've been covering elections since 1979, and I've been covering them, worked as a reporter every day since 1987, and I've been to a lot of really bad forums with bad candidates who didn't know anything, and I have to say these people are amazing. So let's give them some applause, please. Just that what we ask of them, you know, as politicians, these issues that they have to know all about and have to have solutions. It impresses the heck out of me, and it impresses the heck out of me the way the public is engaged as they are. You hear about people not caring, but you know that they do, and these people are great examples. So I want to salute that. Thank you all for coming. You guys are a great audience. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your questions. Thank you to Coastal Association of Realtors. And please, whenever you can, read the Salisbury Independent. We'll be on PAC 14, too. Make sure you watch yourselves on PAC 14. Thank you.